Welcome back to the Comics Aficionados live right here on Thinking Critical YouTube. Very interesting week of comic books. We had the kickoff of a big Spider-Man X-Men event. We had the finale of a fantastic Batman story, at least until this part. And we've got chaos going on with the MCU and the DCU. I have a wonderful panel to talk about all of this. I do apologize up front. Apparently, I scheduled the wrong time. I made a mental gaffe. I said 10 p.m. my time rather than 11 p.m., because of all the time changes. And I am an idiot. And here to talk to me about this is the Comics Aficionados himself. First of all, we got returning to the channel, Teresa, also known as Jester Bell. How you doing, Teresa?
Pretty good. Interested to talk about the DCU news especially, but also to commiserate about this week's comics and whatnot.
Yes, we're going to have a lot of fun geek stuff. Anything happening on the channel that people should know about?
Well, I had a big video I was working on that I took 2 weeks to edit, and that was supposed to go up yesterday, and then it got copyright blocked, and so I had to go re-edit it. So hopefully that'll go out on Monday, and that's going to be a new format for the channel that I'm hoping people enjoy.
I've had many times when that happens. That's why you always upload first before you publish it. That way you can go and redo it and fix things afterwards. Who else do we have here? We've got returning to the channel, Gabe Hernandez from Comical Opinions of Weird Science. How you doing, Gabe?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on the show, Wes. It's been a while, but I'm happy to get into the holiday season, talk about comics, talk about DC
I
doing
noticed
everything wrong.
In your reviews this week, you were a little bit salty.
Who, me? No, salty is the wrong word.
You were optimistic a couple weeks ago. You were scoring things way higher than they should have been, and then this week the bottom fell out. What happened?
I cannot tell a lie. They just let me down this week, especially with Zdarsky and Batman 130, which we'll talk about in a minute. The man let me down, and I'll hold my feelings in for now, but I may have to shed a tear or two when we get into that topic, and so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, the big two let me down this week, but we'll see.
Yes, it was not a great week. When we talk about best of the week later on today, it's going to be mostly indie comics. Also with me is the Reverend Sully, Eric O'Sullivan, the only man with a comic book and food channel. How you doing, Eric? Eric.
Yes, also known as Sully, the Sultan of Soup. Yes, because Wes gave me that name. I'm doing great. My channel just broke over 500 subscribers. My little station's growing, and you've helped a lot, Wes, and thank you so much. And it's good to be here on a Saturday morning here in Boston, Massachusetts. It is 10 a.m. I should be watching Super Friends. No, I'm playing with my Super Friends instead. This is fucking great. Thank you so much.
Playing with your Super Friend?
Yes,
not on
you
camera,
guys.
friend.
I love these guys. This is great.
Okay, the wrong show for that.
You need to be on CNN for that.
It's not that kind of channel.
Hey.
Look, we were passing the helmet last week. We're not doing it this week.
Oh,
absolutely.
Hey.
Thank you.
We did have Lane Kramer chime in and let me know, Wes, you set the wrong time, you goof. Yes, I made a mistake. Thank you so much for donating to the channel. I really appreciate the support. And, every once in a while I do make a gaffe here or there. Thanks for calling me out on that one. Who else we got? We got Josh McDonald, still recovering from Black Friday. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing all right. You didn't know what time it was. I don't know what day it is. So, that's where we are right now.
It happens.
It does happen.
Did you enjoy Batman 130? We're not going to get into all of the spoilers and stuff, but did you like it?
Listen, I liked it.
I'm spoiling.
I'm kidding. I hated it. I thought it was shit.
I knew Sully was going to be the only person that liked that damn comic book.
Sully,
last but not least, Doc actually read Batman 130 for the viewers today. How you doing, Doc?
Oh, why'd you make me read this bullshit?
Because it was important. It's the main
because
topic.
you like fucking torturing me is why. That's why. That's the only reason why. You just like literally torturing me. And I mean torturing via literature.
Well, it doesn't bother me. I'll tell you that.
Doc, torturing you is his love language.
I know.
That's how he shows he cares.
Yes, that's his love language for me. I'm here. It's Saturday. I woke up stupid early for absolutely no goddamn reason. And now I'm sitting here with all of you actually more interesting than me people.
Oh,
very
super
nice.
Friends.
We do have a few super chats to get through before we get into the main topic. It looks like Josh is not here with us, so we'll get to the second one Cal Lyle, how many of you read that letter Nerdrotic showed that he got from the Writers Guild?
I
The
did.
agenda is real.
It's not.
What'd
I
you
mean,
guys
it's
think?
not. It's not surprising. We already knew this. Like they just spelled it all out.
Wait, what was this letter?
What did it say?
So, Nerdrotic went back to California. He went to LA Comic-Con. He got a letter from the Writers Guild. I don't know if he received it. I don't know how he got it, but it was a letter from the Writers Guild of America. It said something like they're going to do a panel celebrating their what was it? Queer reimagined characters, meaning all the characters that they've changed for it, and rules for the agenda they're pushing. I would have to go back and read it exactly, but basically it just confirmed the rules that Hollywood would put out in terms of putting out an agenda right now.
Very interesting stuff. I'll have to go check that one out.
So
Sounds
essentially,
about right.
So essentially, it's hey, take all these
Just spelling
interesting
out all the
things.
stuff we know, Doc.
All right, good.
Yeah, I mean,
Good.
like I went to LA, and before I went to LA, I wasn't queer, and then I went to Los Angeles and got reimagined
part of the
as
agenda.
queer. Yeah,
They
They just reimagined you.
pretty much. Yeah.
All right, this is
Yeah,
what
I mean,
Wayne...
basically what it does is, go ahead.
Nope. Hit it.
No, I was gonna say what it does is it confirms two things. Number one, that there was a focused Writers Guild group talking about queer representation in comics, which is fine, nothing wrong with that at all. But there was a second part of that statement which basically says reimagining or reinterpreting legacy characters through a queer lens, which is an explicit statement of intent. And then who do you have on that? It was a Zoom panel. You can find it on YouTube. They posted the roundtable. It was some writers that you may not know, but some were like, James Tinian, Max Visaggio was on there, a few other folks. So there was definitely some familiarity with the idea of reinterpreting characters specifically for queer representation. And I think that's the big hit right there.
I love targeting a mass market consumer audience to 0.4% of the population. Sounds brilliant. Great marketing
All right,
strategy.
I'm going to
sure
read
you'll
it.
do well.
I'll probably make a video on it. Thank you very much for bringing that to my attention, Cal. I definitely appreciate the perspective from the people that have read it. Lade Kramer, this is to Josh. Do you think we will ever see the character Punchline actually interacting with Joker again? Or are they going to use Tinny to fail to get the character solo over even more?
I mean, I'm sure you'll see them together again at some point. I think it's inevitable. Just like you constantly see Harley going back to Joker, whether it's to fight him or potentially be back with him. They're going to do the same thing with Punchline. As she fails, they will bring the Joker in to try to lift her stardom back up. But I doubt it'll happen.
Could I interject in here?
Yeah.
I'm reading the Joker solo right now. First of all, Teenie Howard did an interview with Batman News, and she referred to Punchline as Joker's ex. And then I read the Joker series, and there's a moment where Joker does interact with Punchline, but she's like mocking him and turning him away because she's on the Legion of Doom now. And so she just kind of mocks him and just throws him away. So I'm wondering, it's strange because I would think that DC would use the Joker to prop up her character more, which I think they're still trying to do. But it seems like they're done with it just for now. And that's strange to me, but that's what I've been seeing.
Absolutely. Makes no sense whatsoever. We've also got Carrie from Nerdy Girl Creates. Morning panel. I feel you, Gabe. Zdarsky let me down. Just when I was back on the DC bandwagon.
Yep. Zdarsky, well, we're going to talk about it, but also we're going to have to talk about Ben
Let's talk
Abernathy
about
as
it.
well.
Let's talk about Batman 130. Get into it. Hit it, Gabe. You had something to say.
Okay. So I'll be honest with you. I wasn't sure about Zdarsky coming on Batman. His work on Daredevil is great, mostly for the most parts. So that was fine. It's like, okay, so he can do street level vigilante, looks good. He brings in this character of Failsafe, which is exactly the kind of character that you want as an oppositional villain to Batman. Batman's big superpower is being able to plan and strategize and figure out anything that you can think of, every contingency that you can imagine. So who better to have an unstoppable android that doesn't give him time to think, that doesn't give him that opportunity to plan and strategize. So it was a great. And then we come up to the ending. Somehow Batman, well, I know I read it, but we're not going to spoil too much of it. Batman gets up to the defunct, or I should say decommissioned Justice League base on the moon. At the end of that cliffhanger, the base blows up, and Batman is now in space, semi-orbital around the moon, potentially hurtling towards Earth. And you say, wow, that's a great cliffhanger. There's no way he could possibly get out of that. And how does he get out of that? I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil it. How does he get out of it? He falls slowly. And he lands on Earth. The suit apparently
he doesn't just
him.
land on
Earth.
Earth. He lands at the Fortress of Solitude because he aimed himself on it.
He lands at the Fortress of Solitude. He is that good that he can survive hundreds of thousands of miles between the moon and the Earth. He can survive friction from orbital reentry, and he can survive hitting the North Pole with at the impact speed of a small meteorite. By any stretch of the imagination, Batman should be dead 50 times over.
Yes.
The impact alone should have turned his organs to mush.
Yes. And well, he wouldn't be an impact. He would have burned up.
And he magically managed to not bounce off the atmosphere when hitting the top of the fucking planet.
Well, it's a re-entry angle thing.
Zdarsky put himself in a corner. He couldn't figure out a way out of it, so he just said, screw it. I'm just going to make him land and turn him into Bat-God, and who cares? Now, whose fault is that? It's partly Zdarsky, partly
it's Eric's fault because he said it's good because people accept crap like this. Eric, defend yourself, sir.
All right. Okay. It's the platform of or the medium, one could say, of no special effects, unbridled, just adventure. It was fun. I like the pacing of it. I like the setup. I missed the last issue, so I'm going into this kind of a little blind. From the first couple of panels, I know we got 14 minutes to figure this stuff out, and I liked it. It was engaging. It had tension. It built, and it paid off. I love Batman and Robin stories. Okay, and I felt that it nailed some of those story beats between Batman and Robin. Not necessarily.
No one said that was the bad part of the comic book. People say the bad part of the comic book
is the whole
Batman
re-entry.
Saving himself after being marooned in space with no protective gear next to the moon.
You know, I'll give you this much. I wish he had something if he boosted Booster Gold's Legion flight ring, that could have a flight ring can keep you alive in space.
Or we establish that Chip Zdarsky's Batman wears plot armor.
I love those plot trunks, dude. I love that trunks joke. That was great.
It's just fucking plot armor because, I mean, he tried to write his way out of this throughout the whole thing. I'm going to get myself up to 40,000 miles per hour because apparently that'll explain how he's able to get 240 some thousand miles in under 12 hours. Yeah. So I'm going to get myself to 40,000 miles per hour with this booster. I guess maybe. I mean, that seems unlikely.
They're supposed to be fantastic stories. This is fantasy. This is a fantastic story.
It's gone beyond fantastic, and it's gone into. It makes the Fast and the Furious franchise for the last 3 or 4 movies look pretty grounded in reality.
Yes. Now, we all accept that Fast and Furious are my dumb D&D with race car movies. However, it doesn't make them good or solid on plot. They blew up a fucking satellite with a car in space last movie. That's about the level we're at here. While wearing balloons as spacesuits. So yeah, we're right at that level.
There's only 2 ways this could have happened. Number one, Zdarsky didn't do his research and he said, screw it, I'm just going to write something and hope it passes. Or he knew it wouldn't pass, wrote it anyway because he figures his audience is dumb. Neither explanation is an acceptable explanation, but that's the only 2 reasons why something like this could have occurred. It strains credibility on every single level. It's just silly. It's ridiculous, and it mars all the issues up to the point.
Of terrible plot destroy an entire story arc? Because in my opinion, it does.
Yes. Because this is the lead up. It's not just this is a way for him to escape. This issue was the finale to the Failsafe arc. This was the conclusion to all that buildup from the prior issues.
And it ends on such a cliffhanger too. I mean, what is it? Bruce wakes up in Crime Alley.
What do you mean cliffhanger? He got shot and went to another multiverse. We literally just saw this story.
He's
dead.
He's dead, Jim.
No, he's
After just
all
being
right, Josh.
dead. already.
Time out. I just
Josh
want to
is
say
trying to jump in.
I'm laughing because Wes is like, we're not giving spoilers away, and then he
I
goes,
never said
it
that.
ends because he gets
Spoil
shot
everything.
and ends up in a
I
multiverse.
never
Spoil
said
everything,
we
I
were
don't
giving
care.
spoilers away. In fact, I will tell you right now, we are spoiling the shit out of this comic book because
Okay.
it's bad. If it was good, we would not spoil it.
You know, here's where I'm at. The one thing that I will give credit to this comic for is that they had a plan to defeat the enemy by the power of friendship, like every other fucking comic book.
But they
in the last
abandoned
10 years.
Superman to go get his ass kicked solo first.
Well, yeah, but it also just didn't work because
No, it didn't.
trying to beat the bad guy with the power of friendship doesn't work. And every single time they do it, it's fucking retarded.
Listen, man, I
So-
seen the Care Bear stare. That shit worked.
Yeah. This ain't the fucking Care Bears. I mean, hell, we just got done with Marvel over on the X books, beating a
Judgment
space
Day.
god with the power of friendship. So it's like everybody learned the wrong lesson from Guardians
That's
of the
the whole
Galaxy.
point of the JLA too. Is like that is the power of friendship. you
I
know?
don't give a
Everything.
fuck.
This is like a
Everything
less
DC.
good. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say everything DC is gonna be Guardians of the Galaxy with James Gunn taking
Hmm.
over.
That might be correct.
You
Josh,
like
what
a
did you
less
think
good
about
version
this
of War
comic book?
Games.
You used to review all the issues of Batman. We got Batman 130, Chip Zdarsky, Jorge Jimenez kicking ass and taking names. Was firmly entrenched in my top 3 comic book series of all of 2022 until this issue. What did you think?
Yeah, no, I like I said earlier, I thought it was terrible. I thought it was really shitty. The problem is, in general, I've been becoming so disengaged with comics because of how bad they've been lately that there have been a few things that I've been rely on to at least enjoy. I'm not going to say love, but enjoy. And Zdarsky's Batman has been one of those comics. So it's already been taking effort to bring myself to sit down and read new comics. And this was the first comic I sat down to read. And this was yesterday, by the way. Sat down to read it, got like 5-6 pages in, and then was like, you know what? Fuck this. I can't. And I put it down. And then last night when I laid down for bed, I actually finished it. And then I hated my life. I was like, I'm not reading anything else. I'm going to like pop some pills if I have to read something
You
else.
didn't read
that's this
Batman
terrible.
Joker Deadly Duo? Because that one was good.
I have not read that yet, no.
Oh, you'd
It's
be
better
happy
than the
with
first
that.
Yeah, that was because I haven't
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I have something to look forward to then.
I haven't been because I said to myself when Chip Zdarsky was on the book because I'd enjoyed some of his stuff before. I thought, oh, I'm gonna read Batman again, and for whatever reason, I never did. I haven't been reading the main solo. I can't invest myself because I keep hearing like lukewarm things about it, and now it seems like people really hate this issue. But when I read Batman and Joker Deadly Duo, which by the way they are not marketing it well, that's not a very good title for a book. But I read it and the second issue, and it's like, oh, this makes me feel like I'm reading a classic comic, like I used to enjoy. Like all the characters are on point. It's got a decent mystery going on. They've got a decent hook at the end of the comic to invest you in getting the next issue. And so that would be a book that I would completely recommend people read. But unfortunately, there's so many Batman comics right now. And like so many titles that just sound generic and you can't really distinguish them from each other that it doesn't seem like that many people are reading it as I would like them to read it. I don't know how many people are because now comic book companies have made it so you can't know what's selling at all anymore. There's no data you can pick up whatsoever. But I'm just looking just from the site I write for Batman News, and I'm seeing no comments under Deadly Duo and like all these comments under Batman 130. And I'm thinking, okay, people they don't seem like they're really reading the actual good comic. They're focused on the one that's bad. And so that's really frustrating to me. And to be fair, there's not many good comics out there right now. But it's like there's like 2 or there'll be a couple diamonds in the rough, but they'll just kind of go under people's radar.
The industry is on life support. That's what it comes down to. Anybody that gave a shit is gone. We all quit. We fucking quit.
You're still here, Doc. You're talking about comic books right now.
I'm talking about comics, but guess what? I ain't buying shit. There's a lot of people out there that just fucking quit. So the reason why you're not seeing any comments is because nobody gives a damn anymore. We have an industry that doesn't take itself seriously. Why in the hell should the consumers at this point? So fuck them. Don't comment. Don't give them any feedback. And honestly, their sales numbers, it's embarrassing to them at this point. So that's why they're not putting them out. They're just tired of being embarrassed.
Sully, you came back. You finally you're being a discerning customer. You're making sure you avoid the bad stuff, and
I am.
There's just enough to keep you coming back, right?
And I'll come back to this issue of Batman that we're divisive on. I mean, I've been a lapsed fan for almost 5 years, so I'm glad that Tom King is very divorced from this title, because I'm just on this level, on the monthly, because I was no way in hell I was going to touch a Tom King magazine. It's just not down with him. But I appreciate coming back to this. So I guess I'm more forgiving. I'm a little lighter because I'm not as invested in it as everyone else.
Well, you got to remember, Doc has been reading the last 2.5 years of X-Men.
I've been reading the last 15 years of X-Men, which has been complete and utter trash.
But I appreciate these stories. This Zdarsky Jimenez Batman. It was a really good issue, I felt, because I liked it, like the pacing. I liked the panels. I liked the quips.
The art is good.
I mean, the art is great. It was fun for me. And because I need some lighter fare in my life. I need some of this over the top fantastic BS. And I'm like, Bruce, you are the patron saint of problem solving, and you are the survivor. That's what I got. I know it's divisive. I know it's hokey. It's
Adam West Batman is hokey. This is like,
I get you. I mean, but I mean, coming back to it after for so long, that I kind of appreciate it. I mean, it's super heroic. That is literally what it's doing.
That's why we appreciate you, Sully. Come on here and be the optimist of the group.
Oh, thanks, man.
You're the yin to Doc's yang. You know what I mean?
Oh, shucks.
I will say, for me, like a lot of people complaining when Scott Snyder was writing Batman because he made Batman such a bat god, and I felt like Chip Zdarsky walked up and was like, "Hold my beer," and made it 10 times worse than what Snyder would do, and for me, that's what just ruined it. And look, I'm with Sully. I like big action adventures. I think if this story had started this way and I'd been prepared for it, I probably would have been more accepting of it. But it did not necessarily start this way, and it took a hard turn right there at the end. And for me, that's what just kind of sunk the ship for me.
So where do you think he sent Batman, Josh? He went to another multiverse, right? They used a gun from the New Gods.
Look, I don't care.
Oh.
He's a Batman expert. What are you doing to me?
Come on, that's got to be
no. Not what am I doing to you? What are comics doing to us?
I'll give you that. I mean, they literally just played out the exact same story in Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths when Batman just returned.
Stopped reading that shit too.
Like, hit with a ray and sent to like another place. Yeah, had to rescue himself.
They have a tendency to do this, though. I mean, they have a tendency to repeat their stories relatively close to each other. And if it's not within the same publisher, then it's from Marvel to DC. And, you know, at some point, hopefully, like knock on wood, we'll get competent people running these companies. I'm just not going to hold my breath for it.
Well, that's because none of the people that are there are even remotely competent enough to come up with their own plot ideas. So we're at the point now where you're just going to, and they're recycling through these plots at such an accelerated rate. We're not that far. No, I'm not coming there. We're recycling through the plots at such an accelerated rate that you're going to be 3 months between clones of the Age of Apocalypse, the Clone Saga, Batman dying and coming back or having his back broken. They're just going to start doing it literally. I mean, fuck, we're not that far away from all of those things happening every single issue.
Yeah.
So Teresa, you're at batmannews.com. I imagine there's a Discord and all that stuff. What was the temperature around this comic book? Was it divisive?
They pretty much hated it. Some of them weren't as angry as others, but they pretty much I mean, I just saw one person saying, "Am I the only one who didn't hate the comic?" So I think it's
So you had a Sully in there.
yeah. So it seems like a universally disliked issue, almost universally, I would say. I'm sorry, my cat was begging for attention.
Is the cat's name Harley?
Her name is Ray, but because
Oh.
she has a brother named Kylo. This was when the Star Wars was still. This was right after the Force Awakens came out that we got her.
So her full name is Ray Skywalker?
No, I call her
Ray Palpatine?
her actual name. I just call her Baby because that's how she acts. But now she wants down.
Your cats
My
are
goodness, that's a
Raylo.
big cat. What are you feeding it? Other cats?
She's a tuxedo cat. They get bigger.
Yeah.
Feeding them like rats or something. My goodness. We do have some super chats. Let's see what the people are talking about. Travlog says Punchline and Joker had a shorter relationship than my parents.
Nice.
I've had longer one night stands than their relationship.
True.
Didn't last very long. I guess they just needed the Joker to introduce the character so she would be popular, and then they just broke her off. At least they waited 10 years for Harley Quinn to discover that she needed her independence.
Punchline is what happens when you clone Harley Quinn and give her none of the decade plus character development to justify going, and then expecting the same result. So, yeah, good luck in that failure.
Yeah, in my quieter moments, I kind of suspect that that DC editorial realized that Harley Quinn works best as a villain, but they pushed her too far towards anti-hero. So they had to. So they just imagined Punchline out of nothing just to kind of fill that villain spot because Harley can't be
James
there.
Tynion
Now
talked
they don't
about
know
this.
what
He
to do with
said
her.
he wasn't allowed to use a bunch of their characters, so he just made like duplicates of the characters. Like Gardner is just because he couldn't use Poison Ivy. Punchline is just because he wasn't able to use Harley Quinn. Obviously,
Yeah,
I
I
imagine Cloud Hunter is because he wasn't able to use Red Hood.
Yeah, I think that the Punchline hype was unexpected because
Good character design.
James Tynion, he kind of just very casually referred to her as Joker's new girlfriend, kind of in a joking way. And everyone, everyone took that very seriously. And there was all this hype around the character that she was going to be the next Harley Quinn. And I talked to people about it, and they're like, well, DC's not going to give me back the villain Harley I like, so I'm just going to go on to Punchline. And they were hyped about her until they actually saw the character, and she wasn't that good. But I think that it happened very surprisingly to DC, especially because there's not much. If you read that, like the 80th anniversary with Joker and Punchline's origin, there's not much of an actual relationship between her and the Joker. It's like she's just another goon who's going to show up in Joker War. But then they started actually like mimicking like the imagery of him and Harley a lot more and copying it with variant covers. So it just seemed like there was this hype around the character for being like more of a traditional Harley, and that DC then leaned into that. And now for whatever reason, they're leaning out of it. They're kind of giving Punchlines this sort of, because I don't really see hype or popularity around her anymore. It's like they're just giving her this last chance with this Teenie Howard series. Like, let's see if we can make this character be a thing still. But then it's confusing to me because it feels like if that's what they were really trying to do, then they would lean into the Joker stuff a bit more.
This is what Cal Mile wants to know. Which franchise or IP comic would you like to write? Example, Transformers, He-Man, Alien, She-Ra, Predator, stuff like that.
Ooh.
Certainly Conan would be on the top of the list, but if I could write anything, like my dream comic book, I would write Ice Pirates.
Ooh.
Miniseries, maybe an ongoing.
Nice.
I think that would be dope. What would you write, Josh?
If I had to pick, actually, no. If I had to pick anything, I'd probably pick Buffy and Angel. For me, that has impacted me in so many ways, and that series is what made me want to write to begin with. So I would love to write that.
Sully, what would you write?
I would do Space 1999 Year 3. I would love a crack at that. I would just flesh out those relationships, see where the Moonbase Alpha goes, and because I adore that show. Space 1999 was a mid-1970s British-American sci-fi show starring Barbara Bain and
Martin Landau.
Martin Landau, thank you. The parents of Drusilla, of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I was going to say Buffy, but Josh beat me to it. So,
Teresa, what would you write?
I would write Aliens because it's probably my favorite franchise from the bunch they mentioned. So I know that they've already done this comic, but I didn't like how Alien 3 took on that franchise and continued that story. So I would just write after Aliens and write this story the way I would want it to go after that.
If you like Alien, have you read the Dan Abnett Alien, Predator, Prometheus? Life
No,
and Death
because I've
series?
watched all the. I was mainly a fan of the movies and then the game that came out, but I haven't read any Alien comics yet.
If you want to read a great Alien comic book, go read that one. It's like 14 issues. It spans like 4 miniseries and then one final. It's absolutely fantastic. Who else we got? We got Gabe. What would you write?
Before I mention that, Teresa, also the current Alien run on Marvel is not terrible. It's Phil Kennedy Johnson. It's okay.
Yeah,
Pretty
Not
terrible.
terrible, but it's okay.
I got the annual. It was amazing. I loved it.
I feel like that's the metric for comics. Horrible, okay, but not terrible. Like that's as good as it gets.
I thought
these
you
days.
meant Predator. Aliens is actually pretty average. The Predator comic book is the one I don't like.
Oh, you don't like the Brisson Predator comic?
No.
Okay.
All right, answer the comic.
I'm sorry. So for me, I'm an old school guy. I like the King characters and the Gold Key characters. Phantom, Flash Gordon. For me, probably something like a Dr. Spectre. I like the mix of horror and the supernatural, but in a comic context with a lead hero. So if I was given the choice, I'd pick something along those lines. Maybe John Carter or something in the pulp classic comic strip type character.
Very nice. Callum Lyle wants to know, did Chip do his research or read a book? Yes, absolutely he did, because he has incorporated so many elements from past Batman comic books into this run. You get the Batman of Verzinar, you get all these stupid things, the Tower of Babel and stuff like that. So I do believe he did his research, but he ended up in a position where there was no way to logically get out of it. So he just acted like Batman could surf a rocket booster from the moon to the earth and land safely. That's kind of what happened. But otherwise, he appears to have done some research.
I'm not gonna lie. I could also just like having met Chip Zdarsky before and knowing his personality and how zany he is and how much he's just kind of gonna be like, all right, fine. I could also imagine DC editorial coming to him and be like, can we just do something more fantastical? Let's like end on a really big way, and him just being like, fine.
Yeah.
And then like I'll give you fantastical. I'll give you fucking stupid.
And I forgot to mention the backup feature in that too. That was amazing. Again, another plus.
Common sense. I feel like crashing to Earth stunt can work with Mr. Miracle instead of Batman. I feel like Scott Free and Shiloh Norman did that stunt already. Yes, that would work for Mr. Miracle.
Yeah.
That would be a good stunt.
Yes.
But he wouldn't just do it. He would probably have like some kind of weird, like a protective box or something in a micro pocket universe in his back pocket. He would just whip that out and go inside it or something weird like that. It would be more imaginative than what we got here.
Ideator said he aimed himself to the Fortress of Solitude from space. What the fuck? Absolutely. It's like it defies all sense of logic. Like I understand you need to have an expectation that things are going to be fantastical and over the top, but sometimes you can go so far over the top that you're like, no, this is so bad. Common sense, Batman no spacesuit is silly as Banshee in space. Absolutely. Banshee in space was absolutely made no sense whatsoever. Using Banshee's power in space, even though there's no oxygen. Callum Lyle, I know that some stories defy logic like JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, but that's all planned ahead. Chip, I think, didn't plan anything, or he didn't think.
Yeah. Well, see, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is its own world with its own set of rules, where you can transfer the energy into your body and you can draw out that power. I mean, that's like that's a fantasy world that has its own set of abilities that you can capture or expand upon. Batman, there's nothing of that here. This is Batman re-entering the atmosphere, and it's ridiculous.
Exactly, and that's why I mentioned earlier. If the story had started with some of these elements, I would have been more forgiving of it, but it didn't, and then it took a super hard right turn.
Yep.
Lade Kramer says Peter David GoFundMe wants to give a call out to Todd Knock and his wife for committing over $3,000 to it. Plus, Mark Guggenheim, Brian K. Bond all gave. Becky did not. That was very generous on the part of Todd Knock and his wife. $3,000 is a lot of money, and I imagine Peter David and his family are very appreciative to everyone that has supported them during their time of need. So, hopefully they get all the treatment that he needs, and they're able to get Peter David back up on his feet and working in the not too distant future. Good update there. Kyle Lyle says, and I still recommend JoJo to Josh and watch the anime dubbed, especially if you want to see muscular men and fun. You like muscular men?
Who doesn't want to see muscular men? No, Callum, I did watch the clip that you had sent, and it is actually on my to-do list. I need to get past Christmas and let my time free up a little bit. But yeah, I plan on checking it out.
Yeah, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure truly is bizarre. It takes a little getting used to.
I'm okay with that. Like I can handle that.
Yep.
Jason Brown says Batman having compassion software on a thumb drive is Adam West levels of absurd. If Bruce Willis can crack an asteroid in space while blasting Aerosmith, Batman can survive in space with an O2 tank. You do realize they took a rocket ship and landed on the asteroid, and they had protective gear in space, and then they drilled a hole. Like this is far more out there, I think, than even what is that stupid movie?
Armageddon.
Armageddon. I was thinking Deep Impact, but that's the serious version of Armageddon.
Yeah. The look, there's no way that Batman designs his suits so that he can be both, athletic on Earth, and it's also a good spacesuit.
Well, at one point he doesn't even have anything over his mouth.
Yeah,
he has to go and get the his lungs would explode as soon as that happened. You can't actually just hold your breath.
Yeah, you actually have to exhale before doing that. Like if you're about to get sucked out, exhale rather than inhale. Exhale, and you can.
You know what's a good version of that movie is Event Horizon.
Yes, that is a much better movie.
Absolutely, like Hellraiser in space.
Yeah. There is no way that nothing about this would have worked. I know he kept trying to write his way out of it, but it required a level of suspension of disbelief that is just not even feasible. Like you can't expect your readers to suspend that much disbelief. I mean, they're superhero comics. There has to be some degree of, disbelief in it, but this was just to the point where, okay, well, if you're going to go that far, then nothing fucking matters. Nothing matters, and there is never a threat. The end.
I probably would have liked this comic book more if it came with sound effects. Like every time Batman did something outrageous, there was like a sound effect that went like, I'm Batman, followed by, this is awesome, and then the sound of like an eagle screeching.
And then a super hard guitar riff.
Kazowie.
And then I was like, look, they're going all in. Why not?
You know what? The funniest part, well, maybe not the funniest part, is part of his rescue strategy is to scavenge oxygen and components from a nearby javelin that's floating in space. It would have been the easiest thing in the world and more plausible if he just gotten into the javelin and said, okay, well, I'm going to try and get this thing to get down and then you do a controlled emergency landing or something to that effect. That still would have stretched, but at least it would have been a lot more believable than him surviving with this suit. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's almost as bad as that movie Gravity, which is absolutely trash.
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
George Clooney.
Yeah. This, like, you're right. He would have made a lot more sense because for him to actually have time to get in there, buy himself some time, and figure out how to do it. Because
that was like the interesting thing about Apollo 13 is they're on the moon and they only have enough resources to get halfway back. They start going there and then they figure out a way to get themselves another 4 hours. And then all of a sudden they find another way to get themselves another 12 hours. They can actually make it back to Earth. And there's all these steps that happen along the way because getting from the moon to the Earth is actually pretty daunting, especially when you've had a major catastrophe along the way. They decided to skip all the interesting stuff and just Batman explain why it was so easy to get back. That's why it didn't work.
Bat God. Just Bat God.
To kind of comment back on Jason Brown's comment, though, I will say the whole re-entry was what made me put the book down for a little bit, and then when I got to this compassion software point, that's when I literally was cussing and regretting.
The last straw.
Yeah, that I was like just regretting reading comics at that point.
Well, he couldn't
It's
make
war
it
games.
shut down
It's war games.
because
He's trying to teach the computer.
Failsafe would have realized and would have fought it.
Here's the thing, though. the if he wanted Failsafe to not realize it, he shouldn't have announced it immediately after shoving it into his back. I gave you compassion.
That was the gayest thing you've ever said.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. I know.
True.
Because it was the gayest thing ever written in a Batman comic.
Kez Dallas says, "Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Not everybody. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be joining Thinking Critical every weekend, especially since I've learned it was created by Jennifer Lawrence."
Nice.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Nobody had ever done a comic podcast before Jennifer Lawrence didn't do one.
Thinking Wes looks a little confused.
Yeah.
So she went on an Actors on Actors interview with Variety, and she said that there were no female action heroes leading a movie before she came along in 2012 with Hunger Games.
I saw a headline about it, but I didn't read it.
The ironic part was she had already played Mystique by this point.
So she was saying about herself.
So she did the Hunger Games in order to break that glass ceiling for the movie that she already did.
No, the more ironic part is I'm actually okay with being created by Jennifer Lawrence. So
whatever. Gabe, what's better, Hunger Games or Twilight?
Oh, Hunger Games.
Yeah.
By far. Twilight is just
Trash.
It's CW teen drama nonsense, and Hunger Games at least has something going for it in the world that they developed and the concept. Now, admittedly, that concept steals a lot from The Long Walk and
Battle Royale,
in part The Running Man. It definitely steals from better stories, but at least there's something that you can hold on to. Twilight is just pretty people acting mopey and sad and trying to get along, and they're sparkly vampires.
All right, fellas, it's not a Twilight versus thing. I do a question at it, Gabe.
Hey,
stop it, Doc. No, Doc was about to jump in and make it a 10-minute segment.
All right.
I could feel it, Doc. Cal Lyle, punchline is Harley if she was straight.
Yeah.
Harley is straight. I don't give a fuck what
Punchline can go gay any second now. Don't worry about it.
Especially with Teenie Howard writing it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Punchline's big draw is she's a brunette.
I thought her hair was purple.
It's like brunette with a ponytail, but she's got some purple streaks. But I think that's the big draw.
She's not really brunette. I thought she was Asian when I first saw her because her hair is black.
Same. Yeah.
With purple streaks or something.
I talked about that in one of my reviews, that the design of her reminds me of almost like K-pop female singers.
Yes.
Like that. That's very much how they designed her. No, I think, and I'm not trying to make a political statement or anything. I think part of the draw for her was that she actually had sex appeal for the male eye. And I get that a lot of people have complained about that over time, but I think it's fine if used here and there and not with every character. But it worked, and then they dropped the ball with the character itself.
Yes, she was designed to be a femme fatale. And you can't do a femme fatale without sex appeal. Otherwise, it's just another villain chick.
Like, what's the lady from Misery? Can you imagine her being a femme fatale?
Yeah, probably not.
Kathy Bates.
Bates. Misery is such a good movie. Lade Craver says, versus battle, Atuma versus Ocean Master, water villains. Who wins, Doc?
Wait, what's... Who?
Atuma.
He's a Namor villain.
Yeah.
Oh. The things from Avatar. That one. That's what wins.
Meow
apparently. Meow. Yeah, the giant space cats that now can live underwater in Avatar 2. That's what wins. Because James Cameron said to get rid of your testosterone for reasons.
All right. Whatever, man. How about you, Gabe? Who wins?
I think I got to give it to Atuma. I think I got to give it to Atuma. That's the type of character that's more grounded in being using the ocean and the water around him as weapons, where Ocean Master just kind of comes off as a generic, power hungry jealous villain. So I think
Ocean
Atuma
Master was a pirate. He was a
Yeah.
Viking. He was also a terrorist. Like, this dude is the major leagues a bad guy, though.
Oh no, he definitely has a diverse resume. But if I'm talking about like a point for point, hand to hand, one-on-one battle, I think I'd give it to Atuma just from a sheer power and strength level.
I was gonna say that because that's what Atuma's known for. Is his strength and fighting ability. Where Ocean Master is almost more of the mastermind. Like he's got that. But it's one of those things. If you were to ask me if it's based on the movies, I would say Atuma would like mop the floor with Ocean Master. If it's comics, I would actually probably lean maybe a little more Ocean Master, but it'd be a good fight.
Very nice. Ideator says, not to be a conspiracy nut, but even NASA can't figure out how to protect astronauts from radiation in space. There's a video of them saying this. Yeah, because there's nothing to stop any radiation from spreading. That's the vacuum of space. The reason that we're protected on Earth is because of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it kind of absorbs all that kind of stuff.
It shields,
actually,
it blocks a lot.
Yes.
And absorbs a good portion.
Another reason.
Yeah, so
we'll figure it out. I believe in space. Let's go.
You believe in space?
Yeah.
About time.
Indeed.
I thought you were on the flat Earth bandwagon.
Oh no, my world is round, baby. I take no sides.
Alex says,
remember,
I really enjoyed Batman 130. We've all said Batman's true superpower is prep time and plot armor. This was Batman dialed to 11 plus MacGyver to the nth degree. It's ridiculous, but I'm fine with it.
I stand with Kevin.
I would say it's dialed to about 48 plus MacGyver.
I'm putting Kenneth Dowling on my list.
Plus I would say Kenneth lost his show privileges if he weren't a producer.
Domino on there too because the character's so lucky they can't die.
Comic cred minus 5,000. There we go. We're all set.
Yeah, there you go. I knew that I knew Sully would like this, and I knew there was a chance that Kenneth Dowling would like it. I've certainly heard from plenty of people that did like the story. They liked that it was so over the top. They thought it was fun, but as Josh mentioned earlier, it didn't really fit with what they were doing prior to this. It was pretty serious stuff. You had Failsafe, kind of going toe-to-toe with the entire Justice League, Superman, Batman and Robin, kind of taking them all down, seeing like this big threat. And then you have this absolutely ridiculous moment where he's, surfing a fucking rocket back to Earth. And I don't want to get into it again because we already talked about it. But I'm glad you enjoyed it, Kenneth. And I imagine there will be good issues of Batman from Chip Zdarsky ahead. This one I just thought really wrecked the story. Although we are getting Mike Hawthorne as the artist next, right?
Ooh.
This was Jorge Menez's last issue, right?
I believe so, yes.
I think so.
Yeah, so that'll be an enormous downgrade. Dill Lindsay, hi all. Batman's official superpower is plot armor. Yeah.
Yep.
Cal Lyle says Viola Davis agreed with Lawrence on everything. Were they on a panel or something?
Yeah, they were. That's what actors on. Yeah, actors on actors. They get two actors together. They talk to each other. But I think they just tell the two actors, because I've watched them. It's like they tell the actors, can you guys just sit together and fawn over each other's work for 40 minutes? And so she had to agree.
Oh, there you go.
Also,
Viola
I'm pretty
Davis.
sure nobody in Hollywood, they just don't disagree with each other. They're like, nope, we're on this same. We are going to gaslight you in real time, and then I'm going to be here to reinforce it.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Disney is restructuring the MCU phases 5 and 6. Apparently, they've panicked after the issues that have been plaguing Phase 4. People have been kind of walking away. There's less interest in the MCU than ever before. It feels like they may have destroyed their billion-dollar franchise, at least to a degree here. Josh, you worked in Hollywood. Are you surprised that they've decided they need to relook at what they're planning for Phases 5 and 6?
No, I kind of expected this to come. Look, we could definitely go into like the problems that Bob Iger has brought to the table versus the problems that Chapek has brought to the table. But Chapek definitely had this reputation for doing things cheaply and then also throwing as much as you can at the wall. And, even Kevin Feige, who for 10 years now was like the perfect kind of like ambassador in terms of not speaking negatively towards things and talking around subjects relatively well as far as public conversations would go within the past 2 years has made it very clear he's not happy with certain things. And again, that's not even to say that he's perfect, but we know that he lost a lot of control. We know that hopefully part of the reason some of the bad talent we've had behind the camera is because of Chapek. And we also know that I can't think of the other guy that was fired, but it was the guy that was under Chapek. Crap, I just had his name, but he was there and he was pretty much deciding what would be a film, what would be Disney Plus series. So it wasn't even based on a creative aspect. So all this control had like gone out of the way. So I think having Iger step back in, he realizes there's some business decisions that weren't smart business decisions, and he's going to push to try to fix those. I know everyone's kind of sticking to this. Iger is going to double down on diversity. I expected that. I think if you didn't expect that, you're not paying attention to what's going on in the world. I'm not saying it's right, but what I will say is I do think Iger did a better job of either doing this subtly or making it more ingrained into the story as opposed to just being, here's diversity. Let's wave our flags and sing praises. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. They need to slow down. We need the quality to be there. They need to stick with the plan. And hopefully we'll see some improvements, because if not, it's gonna just continue to crumble away.
If anybody thought that the guy that started it was going to be the one that stopped it just because the other guy accelerated it, they're dumb.
Agreed.
They're really, really, really dumb.
Yeah.
And now, I think they're going to do some minor modifications. But here's the thing: Chapek being cheap. Remember, fucking Ike Perlmutter was goddamn cheap.
Yeah,
like to the point where people had to pay for soda at the premiere for Iron Man. Like, the VIPs had to buy their own drinks at the Iron Man premiere, and they were only allotted a certain amount of popcorn. Actually, I don't even think they had popcorn. I think they had nuts. And so that, at least the first chunk of the Marvel films under Ike Perlmutter before Disney bought them was massively successful. I mean, not to the level that with after Disney, but it was also the start of the process. So it accelerated as it, in popularity as it went. So there's no guarantee that what happened was the result of Disney's acquisition. It was always it was already directed in that, that path. It was already going down that road. Disney just kind of kicked it in the ass a little bit. Now, thing is, I don't really actually expect them to change that much. They're not going to start axing a lot of the projects, and they still had way too many goddamn projects in all of these phases. And even if they do everything, even if they get everything back on board, they get rid of all the shitty actors and actresses, they bring back good characters, bring back better writers and directors and all that stuff, and get that, they're still starting from a stopping point. People checked out after Endgame. The ones that did just kind of hung on and viewed Phase 4 as almost like an epilogue. They're still starting from a new stopped position. It's the same way that I liken it to the way that comics generally as a serialized medium, they build momentum over time, and then they will lose momentum over time with bad stories. But relaunches basically have to get them from a start point again, and the acceleration is the hardest part. And once you're already moving at a certain pace, maintaining that pace, it's like driving a car. You use a lot more gasoline to go from 0 to 60 than you go from 60 to for the next couple 10 miles. And And that's where they're at with the films, because they didn't have any plots that were dangling that they're picking up and running with. They have to start an entire new story from scratch with existing characters. I don't see it working.
I mean, I think
You
there's
also
a
have to take
debate
look
here.
at the direction of where they're going with the phases.
Yeah.
You have to look at the direction of where they're trying to go. So phase 4, I think for several people, and Josh, I think you may have said this in the past, is being viewed as a transitional phase.
Yeah.
Right. This is the in-between phase that sets up a lot of pieces, establishes new characters, and then sets the direction going forward. It looks like phases 5, 6, and whatever comes after is going to be very Kang focused. So you can expect time travel shenanigans instead of focus in the multiverse and all those components that go into it. That is, to me, that is less interesting than the Infinity Saga. That's not to say it's bad. It's just not as big. It's not as epic. It's not as big as impactful. And then when you look at phase 4, is who are the characters that they established? Who are the pawns and the game pieces they set in place to establish 5, 6, and whatever comes after? It's Shang-Chi. It's Kate Bishop.
Eternals.
It's the Eternals. It's Ms. Marvel. It's She-Hulk. It's all these BC and almost in some cases D-list characters.
They're all
unless you're out,
D-list.
that if
There's no one there that's above. There's no one there that's above C list. Sorry, none of them even hit C list.
It was true. I mean, it's sort of, but they're very little known outside of the comics ecosystem, unless you're a regular comic reader. The general public knew who Captain America was to some degree. The general public knew who the Hulk was to some degree. Nobody barely any comic readers know who Echo is. Why is that? Why does that character warrant their own show?
Ooh.
Why does that character warrant being set up in phase 4 for something bigger in 5 and 6? She's barely even a presence in the comics, let alone in any other aspect of the comic ecosystem. And then the other thing I also notice is during this whole debate about Chapek and Iger and everybody else that is associated with them, I hear very little from Feige. He was the big mouthpiece. He was the big presence through 1, 2, 3, and in the beginning of 4. But when all this political machination, corporate political machinations going on, I haven't heard a peep out of Feige. A little bit from Victoria Alonso because of Wakanda Forever, but that's about it. So he was the one that was credited as the big architect to some degree for the first few phases, but you don't hear him chiming up. So who is he still the architect, or is he just taking a step back and letting other people take the lead? And I think that's part of the problem also, is because he looked like he was the captain of the ship, and right now because he's being so silent, it looks like the ship doesn't have a captain. So when you have a transitional phase 4 setting up characters that nobody cares about or even knows about, and then the captain is being silent or maybe not even present at all, that doesn't bode well. So it would make sense that at least publicly Marvel would be making a statement to say, okay, we gotta retool and adjust because phase 4 just didn't hit the mark, which is fine. But I'm wondering how much of that is lip service versus maybe there's a deeper problem going on that truly needs some adjustment.
Go ahead.
I think that they're with the problems that they have. It's not like DC has been throughout the years, where you'll get something where everyone will just very, very, very vocally hate it or be very divided. With Marvel, they still have a lot of casual audiences that just go to Marvel movies. You can see their box office hasn't been as good as it was, but it's still really good. So if they can help it, then they will not publicly admit that things have been bad and that they're going to change things, because that's going to bring it to the attention of even more people. But they do seem to see that there's a problem with the way Marvel is going, and that the investment that people used to have, they don't have as large of an investment as they used to. I don't know if I really I haven't really been feeling much over the idea of retooling Marvel and trying to write the MCU going forward, because I'm glad that if it's true, that they acknowledge it and that they're going to try to do better, because that's what a company should do. But at the same time, I just feel like the story of the MCU has been told for 10 years. I was very invested in it. And I originally thought that the MCU was going to end with Endgame. I didn't know it was going to be called Endgame at that point, but they're like, okay, we're going to get Avengers 3 and 4. And I thought, okay, I guess that's going to be the end. But then it just kept going. even though the story is done, they don't have their marquee characters there anymore. And so I'm like, if they right the ship, then good, but I don't really feel that invested in it because I feel like I've already gotten the MCU that I wanted. If they do X-Men and do it right, then I'll be interested. But I need to see them giving better output first. They need to put their money where their mouth is. But it's different than, say, DC, because with DC, and we'll talk about in a minute, I'm excited to hear any kind of positive change there because I feel that we haven't gotten the kind of universe on screen and gotten it to work or had consistency with the characters that they have. So that's why I'm still invested in if there's anything they could change with DC. And I find that news kind of exciting. But with Marvel, I just feel like I almost want a break from Marvel and want to see different things because I've been invested in it for so long and I don't feel like I need any more right now. I hope they start making better movies, but right now I feel like, why can't we just have some more original movies that have room to be popular or something like that, or see a different franchise that hasn't worked out start to work. I'm not as into the MCU right now.
You actually make a really good point there. The general audience, and I think your experience is very similar to that of the rest of the audience. They were built up on this giant sprawling epic that had this huge kind of crescendo at Endgame, and instead of giving people space to breathe, they decided now was the time to suffocate them with content. Instead of giving them a small break to kind of digest it and relax, Marvel decided, oh no, it wasn't even Marvel, it was Disney, decided now was the time to absolutely just drop a tidal wave of content on them that they can't even keep up with. And now part of it might be, and maybe there might be a second part of that going, and maybe they won't realize that it's a complete load of shit. But otherwise, yeah, a lot of people, kind of, they were emotionally, as much as you can be by a movie franchise, kind of drained or spent at the end of Endgame, and it probably would have been a smart business decision to kind of take a small step back, give them a little bit of a time to break, and then kind of build it back up at a slow rate. And instead, they just decided to throw what did they say? 19 projects in 2 years at you?
It was about
Jesus
that.
fucking Christ, that's a lot of content.
Consume.
Yeah, it's well known that Chapek was the one pushing, especially for Disney Plus, pushing content, mainly because they wanted to get new stuff out there to hopefully get their money's worth out of it and keep subscribers, get new subscribers. But we talk about, like, why are we doing these shows? Like, why are we doing an Echo show? And I think there is a realistic aspect here. If you have actors and it takes a certain amount of time to make a movie and you're trying to tell a story and you're having to balance what you can tell to make sure you still have this arc. So you're pulling whatever little bit you can pull. But again, it's kind of to Wes's point. Who really wants to see an Echo show? I don't know how many, like, I'll probably watch it and I'll probably find some things I enjoy about it, but I don't know why we're getting an Echo show. It's one of those things that it looks like they were trying to scramble whatever they could with whatever plot lines were there. Because I think in some ways too, they're also trying not to blow their entire load. But I think to Doc's point earlier about, or maybe it was Gabe's point, you don't have A-list characters. I think they've realized this. And this is why Kevin Feige is already negotiating with the Fox X-Men cast. Like, we already know Hugh Jackman's back as Wolverine. He's going to be in a few projects. There's rumors that they're already talking about some of the old Avengers people coming back that are gone. They've talked to Halle Berry. Like, they're trying to get big names back in here to kind of finish out this whole contract period before they move into X-Men and can get A-list characters back in there. And I think they hope that some of these minor characters can become big. I mean, let's be honest, Iron Man was definitely not an A-list character before the films came out, and he kind of bumped to like an A-list tier character. I think they're hoping they can do that again. I just don't.
Here's the difference, though, Josh. When they did the Iron Man movie, they got Jon Favreau.
I mentioned that earlier.
He wasn't a household name, but he was an established director, and he now is a household name. And they went out there and they got really, really talented people. And if you look at who they're getting to write and direct these movies, they're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, you're late to the game. That was the first comment I made. Was before they were actually paying to get good talent behind the camera, and now they're not.
Like what worked in Phase 4? I would say that Kate Bishop is a good version of Hawkeye as a replacement.
No.
The Spider-Man movie was good, but that was all because it had fan service that was drawing back from the movies before the new Spider-Man that we have now. We got to see the old Spider-Man and the old villains that we all kind of like.
Like I will say, I liked WandaVision. I liked that. But
the conclusion to that was Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah. What's his name? Totally. After that.
Sam Raimi.
Not Sam Raimi. Michael Waldron.
The last moment.
Look, they're putting way too much faith in Michael Waldron. Like Loki was not great. Multiverse of Madness was terrible. And then now he's writing Secret Wars.
Yeah, Loki is not everybody's taste. I get that. I kind of liked it just because I like the sort of quirky off the wall humor, not the terrible She-Hulk humor, like that quirky sort of sensibility. But what I like about Loki is I like how it established Kang. Yeah, because I think that was a really good way to establish that character who's going to be very pivotal for the next phases coming up. I mean, if you're looking for a villain origin story, that was really well done. For establishing who he is, what he's about, and how incredibly dangerous he can be if you push him in the wrong direction.
And they can use him to entirely retcon all of Phase 4.
Yeah.
Do a lot of that with
I think that just a general challenge with storytelling, forget about who you hire to direct what, is Infinity War is really tough to beat. The whole Infinity Saga is really tough to beat. I mean, if you look at what does Marvel have in their back pocket as far as big stories that they could mine, there isn't much that can come close. Maybe the Dark Phoenix Saga, but Fox has already done that twice and messed it up twice. Yeah. So for them to kind of bring the X-Men back and then try and tackle that, you got a long road to go for you. But so what else is there? Is Annihilus,
Secret Wars.
But they're doing Secret Invasion and they're
they're doing Secret Wars. That's the Phase 6 culmination after.
But is it going to be anything remotely close to how Secret Wars turned out at the first time?
It's much more likely going to be the John Hickman Secret Wars rather than the.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's going to be heavily influenced by that, not the original one.
But if you talk about scale and scope and cultural impact on comics. As an industry, is any of that even remotely close to the Infinity Saga? No, it's just not. So they sort of like they already peaked the mountain, and they're finding a smaller mountain to climb. So their ability to generate a huge amount of hype, unless they go for something original, and so good luck with that, because Marvel has been trying to do that for the last 2 decades, and they just haven't been able to pull it off on the comic side. So if they can find somebody to do it in the movie side, great, all power to them, but they just haven't been able to do it.
We do have a lot of comments. Let's get to listen to what the people have to say. We got some super chats. Ryan Wilson, dumbest Batman plot, him surviving a fall from space where he can't get his money back. I still can't get over how dumb Lucius having his money is. I would say the Dark Knight Rises has a dumber Bruce losing his money plot. Like that one made no sense whatsoever. But I definitely get you. Like the fact that Lucius would just keep his money and then it wouldn't be his money anymore is absolutely ridiculous and stupid, but I guess you had to make him not a billionaire anymore.
Because that's bad.
Cal Violet says, I think the Marvels is going to be the validation movie, and people will walk rolling their eyes sighing, women, make Marvel male again.
I just don't expect the Marvels to be terribly successful. I mean, I think it's going to do all right, but
I don't think it'll do all right. I think it might be the Han Solo of the MCU, the first real bomb.
I mean, I like the actor and the character origin.
Monica Rambeau?
Or for Monica Rambeau, I think in WandaVision that was well done. I mean, it's certainly a departure from her from canon, but I think it was well done. The character is likable, the actor is likable, and if they can give her a strong presence, hopefully to balance out Brie Larson's 2x4 plank of wood style of acting, that they might have something. We'll see.
Yeah, I do think they made a mistake. I think they should have had Lashana Lynch as Monica Rambeau, though. She's by far a better actress. Yeah. I if they can take that and transition that character into kind of being the spotlight, I think they might get some success on it, but they're unfortunately going to have to step away from Brie Larson because too many people do not like Brie Larson.
I just need Rogue to show up and touch Brie Larson on the forehead and then be done with it.
100% agreed.
Ooh,
Because
yes,
she's
weird.
way too OP.
Just put her in a coma and then be done with it.
Ooh. And
Zach Richmond says Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Ant-Man are the only Marvel movies I'm looking forward to. Maybe Fantastic Four down the road, but that depends on how well they make it.
Guardians 3 I'm actually looking forward to because as kooky and
Ant-Man.
zany as James Gunn can be, he also balances it with solid emotion. And he tries not to sacrifice story. So I will give him some props. Ant-Man, look, I'm hearing Ant-Man has some serious moments, but overall the tone is very zany, and I'm not sure that's what the MCU needs right now.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Cobbin says, of course, plot armor is Batman laughs said Batman always wins. Even Sinestro let Jace win. Gabe, do you know Hidayah, would she beg Sinestro in her hostage?
Hidayah is I think that's from the I Am Batman series, which I apologize, I'm not up on, so I can't make a comment on that character.
You didn't see it when Sinestro went to go fight Jace Fox and he just decided at the last moment, nah, you're a good guy. I'm going to let you win.
Wait a minute, was that in the Dark Crisis or was that in the?
It was a tie-in to Dark Crisis.
Oh,
yes.
no, yeah, I skipped that one. Yeah, I'm aware of it, but I didn't.
You're a lucky man. That thing was absolutely terrible.
I have nothing specific, but I have no interest in Jace Fox as a Batman character. The character just doesn't make sense to me.
I'm sure some of you have noticed that Teresa has disappeared. I did reach out to her and send her a message, but I haven't heard back. Hopefully she returns because she was really looking forward to talking about the DCU stuff. Kyle Weil says, you can only pick one. Which Phase 4 stuff would you reboot and what would you keep and what would you change? I would keep Kate Bishop as a replacement Hawkeye. I thought she did a good job. What would I change? Whew. I could only pick one thing in Phase 4 to change, huh? I would have never let that dude make Thor: Love and Thunder. That's what I would change. Josh, what would you change?
I would change Multiverse of Madness back to what it was originally supposed to be. If you've not looked up what Scott Derrickson's original plans were, it was going to be a incredible movie with an incredible story, and it would have it would have actually balanced all the plots going forward that we have much better. You would have had Doctor Strange actually coming to terms from not only Endgame but where his last movie left off. Baron Mordo was going to be more of a key character. Scarlet Witch was going to be there, but she was going to start off good and slowly become bad because she finds a way to get to her children. And you're going to have Nightmare involved, and you're going to delve more into Doctor Strange's past with his sister and kind of how that has impacted who he is and how he thinks. And the fact that we didn't get that is just shameful.
You're not blaming Sam Raimi, though. He was brought at the last moment.
Sam Raimi still made some changes that they just went with, but no, Michael Waldron is definitely the biggest culprit here. So
very nice. Kenneth Dowling says, hopefully the MCU can restructure and make things more cohesive. I'm not against female heroes, just don't take away the strong male ones. Have everyone.
Agreed.
Yes, a nice balanced universe, I think, is what everyone's looking for. But they've definitely leaned in one direction at the expense of another at this point.
Absolutely.
So hopefully they can fix that. WraithX7 says, one of the problems with the MCU is that the films and TV series are making the same mistakes that comics have made over the last 20 years. And that's because they've caught up to comic books over the last 10 years. And all the stuff that we're seeing in the TV shows, for the most part, are comic book storylines that have been, created within the last 10 to 15 years. And it all sucks. That's the big problem, Doc. Doc is gone. It all sucks. That's a big problem. Josh.
Yeah, it's kind of like twofold here because Doc mentioned Perlmutter earlier, and I definitely think there were some things that Perlmutter did right and was pushing for that were quote unquote right. At the same time, like he wasn't allowing Captain Marvel, he wasn't allowing Black Panther. They wanted to introduce those characters earlier, and I think had they been able to do that, you would have seen more balance. And then because they couldn't do that, you had Kevin Feige. Joss Whedon was brought in to map out the Infinity Saga. Like he is one of the key architects for developing the story for those films. So that was all set. And by the time Perlmutter was out, was pretty much, they could start planning after Infinity War Endgame, which at that point was just Infinity War Part 2. And I think they just went way too hard, way too fast. And then on top of it, they got terrible writers and terrible directors that leaned into it way too heavily. So it was like a double whammy. And it's not been great.
The perfect store of mediocrity
Yeah.
taking over the MCU. Kenneth Dowling said I enjoyed Batman 130. I did not put it in my top 10 Batman list. Come on, guys. You ought to have better taste than that. I don't know. I'm skeptical right now, Kenneth. That's all I'm saying. We got Gabe taking notes right now. He's skeptical.
I'll put a half circle next to Kenneth's name on my list.
You're on the list, Kenneth.
There's nothing wrong with liking Batman 130, by the way. I just happen to not appreciate the comic book, and I thought that it ended a very strong storyline in very unspectacular fashion.
I say this all the time. You can like whatever you like, but do not conflate liking something with saying it's good. Those are two different things. And as long as you can keep them separate, you're in good shape.
Teresa, you're back? What
So
happened?
the power blinked and it kicked me off.
Oh,
Yay!
that absolutely happens. It used to.
Yay.
I had to get an ups for that because I was having issues. But
There's a storm
welcome
going
back
on
to the show.
outside.
We're about to talk about the DCU. I know that's what you're excited for. Cal Lyle says, and I don't think Emily Blunt will be Sue Storm. She admitted she's sick of a strong, independent woman. Well, that's not what Sue Storm is as a character or as a hero.
That's
Well,
also
which version of Sue Storm? Because the Jessica Alba version of Sue Storm from the Fox Fantastic Four is definitely the strong, independent woman. But hopefully,
Well, I'm
they don't
talking
go that
about
direction.
from the comic books. Is she going to seduce Namor? What's going to happen here,
I
Gabe?
think
If-
Namor is
if-
going to seduce her.
Well,
Yeah.
hey, let's tamp that down there, Mister. I know where you're going with that.
Who's Franklin's baby daddy? Who's Franklin's baby daddy? That's gonna be it.
I don't care because Franklin's not a mutant. If they go with the weird part about where people are getting Fantastic Four wrong now is because they're forgetting what made the Fantastic Four work at a meta level when they first started. Is each one of the characters, their powers are extensions of their personality. Sue Storm, Johnny had flame powers because he was a hothead. He was unpredictable. He was impulsive, and that was an outward manifestation of his inner person. Ben was the rock of the group. He was the solid guy that was this foundation that always kept them steady. And even Reed was always stretching himself too thin. He was always kind of going in different directions. The powers were extensions of who they were as people from their heart, from their personality. Sue always felt like she was the protective mother. That's where you get the invisible bubbles, the shields and protecting everybody from damage and harm. But at the same time, sometimes she felt like she was fading into the background. She felt like she was invisible. It was an extension of her personality. It was an extension of who she was as a person. It wasn't just powers randomly assigned. So when you have the Fantastic Four, you have multiple levels of what their powers mean and reflect. So if you get somebody who comes up as, corporate, B-boss, strong, independent woman doing all those things, her powers don't then match her personality, and they'll get that wrong, and it just won't reflect what made the Fantastic Four work in the first place. So if you come up with a Sue Storm that it's a strong, independent woman, corporate boss, she's in charge and bossing everybody around, you can do it, but it's just not going to work the same way as what made the team special in the first place.
Ideator says, I expect Disney to reboot Marvel. Politics wrecked their image. Entirely too much controversy with finances after FTX crash, not to be sold to Apple. I expect, we're going to see a reboot eventually.
Yeah, I fully believe that by the time we reach Secret Wars, I think we're going to end up seeing that they have recast key characters like Iron Man. Maybe not Captain America.
Iron Man's been replaced by Riri Williams. Captain America's been replaced.
Not yet.
Falcon.
Yeah, Captain America's been replaced by Falcon, but I do think we're still a couple of years away from that, and the fact is they're looking to have long form stories. I was going to say this about Emily Blunt; she's too old. And I don't mean that as she can't play the character now. They're looking for people that they can have for 10 to 20 years, and she's already in her 40s. So what I expect to see is,
ageism, Josh. It's just, it's repulsive.
I know it's
go
terrible. But even Anthony Mackie, like I believe he's in his 40s now. Like he's not going to have too much longer. These are real
Black
people.
don't crack. You know what I mean? That guy
Yeah.
looks good for his age. Then
He absolutely does. But no, I think you're going to see that within time you'll get a Steve Rogers Captain America again. I think you'll get a Tony Stark Iron Man again, and I think it's because the people are going to want to see those characters with the X-Men characters in a film. I think it's going to happen.
Caleb says Mikey keeps hiring people who hate this stuff and have no credentials other than Rick and Morty. And I know Echo will have an anti-colonial message. Rick and Morty is destroying comic books as we speak.
Yeah.
Rick and Morty, and also Robot Chicken. Because if you look at writers like Cody Ziegler and Zeb Wells and these people that are coming in that have sort of a reverent comedic bent to how they write, that's where a lot of that stuff is coming from. These are Cartoon Network cast-offs. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad that they're not talented, but they're talented for what they do with the Cartoon Network. You bring them into the MCU, trying to adapt these stories and characters that in some cases are decades old, and in one or two cases even approaching a century old. It doesn't fit. It doesn't match. It just, and you have to have a respect for you have to have respect for the material. It doesn't need to be a perfect one for one match, but you have to have a respect for their material. So if you're bringing in writers that are comedic in their bent and that comedy is an irreverent kind of a comedy where disrespect is part of how that comedy works, it just doesn't fit, and the results speak for themselves.
Kenneth Dowling says, I'm glad y'all got my Jennifer Lawrence comment earlier. Wes, it's okay. My favorite Tarantino movie is Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2. Watch it, Simu Liu and J Law.
Well, don't you know that Simu Liu is the reason why Quentin Tarantino was able to make Kill Bill? He popularized the martial arts film.
Well, before Simu Liu came along, no one had ever seen an Asian man play an action hero in a movie.
Yeah,
True.
I thought you were going to leave it at no one had ever seen an Asian man before.
That's absolutely ridiculous. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, Kenneth. Really appreciate it. Kenneth wants to know Steel versus War Machine. Who wins? Doc, I got Steel. Who you got?
War Machine.
War Machine.
War Machine.
I mean, the dude's a walking fucking arsenal.
I was about to say he's got
I agree with
guns.
Steel.
Steel
I
has
agree
his
with
hammer.
Right, but Steel also built his hammer, and War Machine is just wearing something that somebody else invented. So if it gets damaged or he has to adapt, I think Steel's in a better place to do that.
He's also built a lot of the add-ons for. He never was able to build the suit itself.
He's not
or
a
the
scientist,
AI.
Doc. He's an Air Force guy.
Yeah, but he's also he learned how to basically be a mechanic from working with Tony for a long time, especially weapons and all that stuff. He can add weapons to his fucking armor. That's not a problem.
Yep, building missiles is really easy. My goodness.
I'm not
Doc,
saying
what
he's
are you
going to
doing?
build them from scratch.
You just said build. What are you talking about? Was he going to
I
take
said
what
he
Tony...
can add weapons to his armor very easily.
All right, I think they're fools, Kenneth. I got Steel. Everyone else says War Machine. Wraithx7 says, another problem is that Disney is taking a property, the MCU, that mostly, not solely appeals to males and trying to appeal more to females. It's not really a Disney problem. That's an everybody problem. Everybody wants to make everything accessible to everyone and takes a lot away what makes them special away. What were you going to say there, Teresa?
What I was going to say is the MCU was interesting because, in my opinion, it was always like 50-50 male-female fan base, or maybe like 60-40 or something like that. Like they had plenty of female fans before. It's just like they kind of misunderstand what people want to see. It's like we already liked the MCU for what it was, and they're like, no,
Same thing with Star Wars.
Yeah, you're gonna like She-Hulk. You're gonna like seeing this awful person navigate her life as a career woman and being selfish, and that's not what we want. They kind of make assumptions. It's like with the Birds of Prey movie, where they're like, well, this is an action movie for women, and we're gonna make it like a chick flick instead of an actual action movie. They had to actually bring somebody in to try to figure out the action scenes because they were so poor. And I'm like, but we already liked these women who are fans of action movies, like them for what they are. You don't need to change them in any way. So, yeah, that's all I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm with Teresa on this, but I'll also agree and disagree with the comment from a different saying it a slightly different way, is women like hot buff guys. I'm not sure that's a surprise. That should not be a surprise to anyone. But
I'm telling you right now, Gabe, it's a curse and a blessing. You know what I mean?
Hey,
Josh might like hot guys too. You never know.
Look,
Let's spread the
here
wealth.
we go. The zipper's coming down. But anyway, yeah. Hey,
Well, this movie changed real quick.
women like handsome, hot, buff guys, and that was the majority of the front presentation of the first 4 phases of the MCU. So you take that away, you're kind of misreading the audience there. So I'm kind of saying the same thing that Teresa's saying, but just using different words. Is there's a significant misrepresentation of what the audience is looking for, and so they're giving the audience what they think they want, but they're not listening to what the audience actually wants, and that's part of the problem.
Hollywood
Absolutely.
has done.
Callum Lyle says, remember, they refuse to hire fans to do any of these movies now.
Yep.
That's not very smart there, Doc, was it?
No, it's really not. But it doesn't surprise me because they don't want to make movies for people that already like something, because they think those people that did like something are bad people. So
Well, I think they think that we're addicted and we'll just keep coming back, whether it's good, whether
Well, yeah.
they cut it with enough flour or not. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. But you know, they don't understand. They believe. Look, the whole entertainment industry believes it's in a post-sales world where it doesn't actually have to sell things and it doesn't have to continue appealing to the existing core audience, and they don't understand how much of the product they're able to change before we say, what the fuck is this? It's one thing if you take a couple of milligrams of sugar.
All right, Doc,
Out
we're
of Coke.
taking the analogy too far. You agree that it's a bad idea not to hire fans of material. Caleb also says Captain Marvel is rumored to come out of the closet, Doc. I agree. That's probably going to happen.
Probably. We're in a Hollywood now where their idea of storytelling is not the traditional hero's journey, but the hero already starts perfect and the world has to have a journey to understand them. It's backwards and it doesn't make any sense and nobody likes it, and that's why it sucks.
Terrence Bernard says Feige should have stayed in space with Fantastic Four, Guardians, Nova to deal with the Nihilists while they figure out the Avengers lineup on Earth. They probably should have taken a detour.
Well, and I'll say too, Kevin Feige did an interview right as Phase 4 is about to start coming out, or right as Phase 4 had started coming out, and people had mentioned Phase 4, Phase 4, Phase 4. What does it look like? What is it? What is this? What is that? And he had openly discussed, like, well, moving forward, we're not going to have phases anymore. We're just going to have like the cosmic stuff going on, the street level stuff going on, the mystic stuff going on. And then they kind of started rolling that out. And I think they realized it felt like there was no cohesion because there wasn't really much cohesion. And I think he learned real quick, this isn't going to work for what we're trying to do. Because so much of the drive of Marvel was, one, that there were consequences for the most part in these films. But because of these consequences, it pushed people to come see the next film. And you didn't have either of those going on throughout most of Phase 4.
Kenneth Dowling wants to know Exo-Man of War versus Iron Man. This is no question. Exo-Man of War would wipe the floor with Iron Man. He flies in space. He's also a Visigoth warrior, so he has a warrior mentality.
Yeah.
When you're coming on to like fisticuffs, even if they were evenly matched, which they are not because of the armor the Exo-Man of War has, Shanhara is much more powerful than what Tony Stark has developed. Even the most powerful ones, even if they were even, which they're not, he would still beat his ass just because he is a warrior, and Tony Stark is not.
Yeah.
So you're saying Shanahara is more powerful or smarter or better than Jarvis?
Yes.
I'm going with Hugs and Kisses Man of War 2.
Okay.
Hugs and kisses. Don't disrespect the character.
No, Valiant did that already. You don't have to worry about disrespecting Exo-Man of War.
Who was
Especially
it
with
that
Clue
wrote
Red
that?
coming on the
Dennis
title.
Hallam? Oh.
No,
That
Dennis
was so
Hopeless.
Fuck Dopeless, Dennis Hopeless. They're the same person.
That was awful.
Yeah. But Clue Red's coming on Exo-Man of War next spring. Good for you.
With
Clue Red.
with Liam Sharp, but that they're gonna go bankrupt before that happens.
Yeah.
They're gonna be sold off or something. Hopefully, Dinesh Shambasani buys them back. Kenneth wants to know, or Kenneth has to say to you, Josh, because he's tired of your ageism. Emily Blunt is a young 39. Come on, Josh, have some respect. If she wants it, she can do it.
Look, what I'm telling you is, especially for these shows that are or films that are starting and introducing new characters to this universe within the next year to 2 years, they want younger people, and it's not necessarily them being ageist. It's these actors saying, "All right, I'm hitting my limit. I can't do this anymore," because it physically takes a
Look
toll
at
on
Hugh
their body.
Jackman. What is he, like 60?
But he even said, "I can't do this anymore." That's why he
And
didn't
then
want to
he's
come back to
doing
begin
it.
with. Yeah, but I
The little
don't think they
cashola his way, and then he gets in the gym again.
I don't think they plan on making him get as buffed out as he was before. I think they're going to find ways to hide it.
Well, I hope so.
Giving him
If I don't
comics
get a
accurate.
Hugh Jackman with his shirt off scene in the movie, I'm going to be upset.
But even Chris Hemsworth said, like, I can't do much more. Like, my body is at its limit. So, you know, it's a very realistic thing. I'm not trying to be ageist. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just these actors are saying this.
Well, you
Someone
have to
put
be
Harrison Ford at 146. He's also probably not playing a physical role. And if they do have him as Red Hulk, I bet they have a stunt guy doing 99.
He'll just voice over.
Yeah.
Dakari the Professor says, do any of you think that John Walker will be more antagonistic when he returns as the U.S. agent? I thought he was fired as the new Captain America. Well, he's going to be part of the Thunderbolts lineup, and I imagine he'll be the biggest scumbag on the team.
Yeah, they've got quite a few scum. I think that's going to be interesting because we already know the direction they plan on going that. If you watch Wakanda Forever, you know what the Contessa's goal is. And it's going to create infighting within the team.
Yeah, so you imagine Red Guardian and U.S. Agent are not going to like each other very much.
I'm thinking Bucky and U.S. Agent aren't
And
going to like each other.
Bucky's not going to like them either.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. But I didn't think he was fired as the new Captain America.
No, I didn't.
But if you watch the show, he wasn't exactly wrong.
No.
You know what I mean? Like most of what he did kind of made sense. Kenneth Dowling says, Steel versus Man of War is defense versus offense. Man of War. Steel versus War Machine is defense versus offense. War Machine has the firepower, but Steel has taken on Zod, Cyborg Superman, and has held his own. Could go either way, but I think Steel can take it. I agree with you, Kenneth, because you, sir, are a man of logic and reason, and you understand that Steel would absolutely destroy War Machine in a tough contest. What do you think about that, Josh?
I still say War Machine.
So you're still wrong.
Yeah.
I like that you're sticking to
back
your
with his
guns, sir.
list.
Wade Kramer says Wes's wife likes his Chuck Norris beard. So do the ladies. Do I have a Chuck Norris beard?
A little bit.
Maybe. Am I going full Chuck Norris here? The wife
You
does
just
like the beard.
You gotta grow your hair out and get that 90s, like, kind of like not bowl haircut, but like bowl mullet haircut. And
I
then
could do
you'll
a
be
mullet. I had a mullet back in the day.
I believe it.
I prefer the Viking haircut though. But it's so hard to have long hair here because it's so hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like even here during the winter, it's so hot here. My goodness. Common sense. Gabe is right. The MCU even sexualized men in Thor 4.
Which
Yeah.
I did not like that. I didn't like anything that they did with Thor in Thor 4.
It
Which
was sexualizing him while also
Ridiculing him.
yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like there's you never see that shit with honestly, it's very rare that you'll see a female character that is simultaneously sexualized and ridiculed the way that they'll do.
I don't know, man. I
the
saw that one where Anna Nicole Smith like ripped the chrome off of a bumper and she had it on her lips.
Well, yes, that was in the Naked Gun.
Well, it
Oh,
happened,
no,
is what
that
I'm
was in
saying.
basketball. That was in
Well,
basketball.
it was basketball. It was
No,
it
that wasn't
Yasmin
Anna Nicole.
Bleeth?
I thought that was Jenny. What's her face?
Oh, it was Jenny McCarthy.
Jenny McCarthy.
Anna Nicole Smith in The Naked Gun had a dong. That's what that scene
Yeah.
was. When she was behind the silhouette. Now I remember.
Look, raise your hand if you think Disney MCU released that clip of Thor's butt by accident.
Oh no, they did it on
No?
purpose.
Right?
Yeah.
They absolutely did it on purpose. Why?
They knew
Because
what they were
had
doing.
they knew their story was subpar, and they wanted to get they wanted to get the male and female gaze. I'm all equal opportunity
Yep.
to come into that, to see that. So they know that they like hot buff guys, which is exactly the point from earlier. And so they put that out there because they knew that would get people in the seats, because that moment is irrelevant to the story, right? Of everything that's going on. I mean, it's just a gag. There's nothing
That entire
to it.
20-minute
But
scene
they
is
did it
irrelevant to the story.
Right. But they put that out there in the public as a clip for people to view officially, because they knew it would get. They were using it like the teaser, like we talked about with the sizzle reel with Superman at the end of Black Adam. They put that out there because they knew it would bring more people. 10%, 20%, who knows? But that's because they know that's what works.
Wade Craver says, so for Sexuality Swamp, who at DC is going to be the next Fire and Ice? Cassie and Stephanie Cotter? Who do you see in the 2023 crystal ball?
Cassie and Stephanie, they're already like teasing it a little bit.
Ooh.
They might as well do it to everybody at this point.
Yeah. I think Earth Q is in order.
But Steph is dating right now. We're sort of dating.
They should have T. Franklin write the Justice League book and just be done with it.
Look, hey,
Please don't wish that on anyone.
Here's the answer. Everyone's gay, and the population of all of these universes goes to 9 by the next 15 years.
Why would
There's
you
9
even
people.
speak that into existence?
Because you know what? I don't care anymore. Let them.
Okay.
I am literally
But not you, Teresa,
begging
but
for
the
these
T. Franklin.
companies
Yeah.
to unalive themselves.
I wish I would have just jumped in with "I knew it" the moment Doc was like, "Everyone is gay." But
My goodness.
yeah,
Kenneth Alex says, with technology, Tony Stark is the master, but Exo Man of War is the superior warrior. Tony could hack his tech, but a straight up fight, Exo Man of War will take it. I don't think he can hack Shanhara. It's not like Earth technology.
I
Hey,
never stopped him
remember, no, do you know who can though? Jeff Goldblum.
The only
Jeff
person
Goldblum
I've
can
seen
hack
hack Exo Man of War's armor is Livewire.
He hasn't gone up against Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith yet.
before. Well, didn't his armor get hacked in the last series with Hopeless? It was infected or
Oh
something.
yeah,
like that.
yeah. So you can't. Yeah, you can't take
Well,
that serious. That
it's-
wasn't a
it's
real story.
canon now. Too late.
Don't say shit like that. That's how you get removed from the channel. That's not canon. That was a mistake. Oh my goodness. Very well put, Kenneth. But I still go with Exo Man of War. Cat Lyle says, I don't think Sue Storm would want to be called Mrs. Cuckoo.
Oh, Cuckoo Khan. Okay.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Look, I'm just saying, if you
Namor.
end up having Sue Storm and Namor in the same universe, and you don't have them flirting, like you just completely drop the ball.
It's been going on for decades.
Yeah.
Wade Craven says Wes's Norris beard was so strong the Philippines rose out of the ocean with people to be there to greet him. First Wes Norris joke in antiquity.
Okay.
The beard game is strong. I'm not going to sit there and deny this. You know what I mean?
Mine's
I'm
better.
probably raising up eyelids with this thing.
Yours is bigger. Doc's
That's
is
what
bigger.
she said.
You have no idea. You can't see the fullness because you don't see it up close. This thing is beautiful and it shines in the sun.
Well, you gotta watch.
Wes has a nice beard. Doc has a big beard.
Yeah, it's a girth thing. Do you want quality or quantity? Because I got the quality. Doc's got the quantity. You know
Yes,
what I'm
Josh
saying?
has confirmed Doc is definitely more girthy. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
A lot of
Chris
size
J.
queens. There's a lot of size queens in the world.
Chris J827. Can you all talk about how DC ruined Catwoman? She was with Batman and now she's just back to being an anti-hero thief with Valmont. Just sad. I gave up on the Catwoman series by Tinny Howard pretty early on. I really liked the Ram B series. I thought it was going places and they were doing some good stuff, but Catwoman is not in a good place in it. For all I know, I think Tinny Howard's going to still be on the books. That's going to be the
She's
case moving
Going
forward.
to be writing Punchline, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman all in a row.
They're going to end up at the crossover.
Hopefully we
Just
get
going
an
to be a
event out of
lesbian orgy.
And then you're probably going to get a Gotham City Sirens book with those three. Like,
Sounds amazing.
So,
it
so
just
wait,
sounds like the natural progression for how they think over there.
so she'll get 3 ongoings that she'll get all canceled. So she'll get one ongoing with all the same comics. Man, she is going for a new record.
Yep.
Instead of just the reverse career of ongoing to miniseries to one shot, now it's 3 ongoings to one ongoing to one miniseries to a one shot. Fuck yeah. Good job, Tinny Howard.
AL wants to know, do you look like ZZ Top?
Not yet.
It's pretty
it time.
long.
It's not that far off.
Last time I saw it was down to your balls,
It's
right?
to my
No?
fat fucking gut.
Oh, well, never mind. It's almost there. Grateful Dog says Priest on Superman in March looks interesting. What's wrong, Gabe? You don't think it looks interesting?
I saw that announcement and I was like, Christopher Priest on Superman? Sure. Okay. I mean, I like Christopher Priest as a person.
Superman was there.
I like Christopher Priest as a person, and he's credited with one of the folks that really did something interesting with Black Panther. But he has a writing style that just it boggles my imagination. He can't tell a linear story to save his life. He jumps from here to there, there to there, there, and sometimes he adds in things in that don't make any sense, and he can't stay sequential. And then when you put him on a property where he's not that interested, it shows. When he was on that U.S. Agent miniseries, I think last year, when U.S. Agent was coming out right around the time with Falcon and Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, that miniseries was awful. That was terrible. And then he's currently writing the Black Adam series, which is supposed to coincide with the Black Adam movie, and that series has nothing to do with the movie. Doesn't really focus on Black Adam as the main character. It focuses on this White Adam character that is sort of. When Priest is not interested in a story, he's all over the place. So for him to come along and say, okay, well, I'm going to do the Superman sort of limited series on, I think he's in space or something like that, does not fill me with confidence. It really doesn't. Plus his run on Vampirella was really convoluted and confusing as well. So he's got more red marks than green marks in recent stories.
To give him some credit as far as Black Adam goes, this whole White Adam thing was mandated on him. Like that's
what I heard in an interview.
Yeah.
They kind of told him he had to do it.
Right. But he didn't have to accept the job.
No,
he didn't have to take it. He could have said, no, I'm not going to do that.
I think Priest as he's gotten a little older has gotten a little more Neil Adams writing style, where it starts getting a little more crazy, and it makes sense in his head. But like it doesn't necessarily translate out onto the page. The last thing I really, really enjoyed from him was, I did like the beginning of Vampirella, but yeah.
Kenneth Dowling says Chuck Norris sleeps, Jennifer Lawrence waits.
Nice.
She waits for him to sleep. Probably.
Blade Kramer says Wes is North. I've already got that one. My bad. I think we're through the super chats. Thank you so much to everyone for supporting the channel. Really appreciate that. Yes, we are. Let's get to this final topic. It's the last one we'll get to. Wonder Woman 3 apparently has been canceled by James Gunn for the new DCU and DC studios. They're no longer going to do that one. Gal Gadot is out $20 million. Patty Jenkins, I believe, is out $10 million as they're looking to revamp the line. And it looks like they're doing a big shakeup. We might not be getting all the people back in the hero roles that people liked. And here to talk about that is Teresa. I know you got a lot to say about this.
Well, it was interesting because if you hear some of the behind the scenes, apparently Patty Jenkins came to some of the not the DC executives, but the Warner Brothers executives she was supposed to with her Wonder Woman 3 script. They said apparently, according to like these sources, it was as bad as Wonder Woman 1984. It had a lot of similar character problems. And so the executive she brought it to hated it, brought it to James Gunn and Peter Safran. They hated it as well. They gave her notes and they gave her a chance to rewrite it. And she got angry with them and emailed them. She said that they didn't understand her, didn't understand what she was trying to do, didn't understand character arcs. And she apparently linked them the Wikipedia definition of character arc. And then she kind of quit after that. She didn't take the way, she just walked off the project. So now they don't have a Wonder Woman 3. And what was interesting is that the Hollywood Reporter article that reported on it they made a lot of speculations. They said that it's possible that they might be looking to reboot their entire line. Like Gal Gadot would no longer be Wonder Woman. Henry Cavill would not be coming back after all. Jason Momoa would end his time as Aquaman with Aquaman 2, and that they would give him the role of Lobo to compensate for that. And the interesting thing about it is James Gunn, who has been very ever since the Suicide Squad, maybe even before that, he's been very, very vocal on Twitter in terms of debunking things that aren't true. And so he came out very much later to talk about the Hollywood Reporter article. He said some of it is true, some of it is half true, some of it is not true, and some of it is undecided. And so it wasn't really what he said and what he didn't say. He is very, very quick to immediately refute anything that isn't true. And this was an article talking about the potential of just hard rebooting most everything in DC. So he's still that is making people think, especially now that apparently the potential Man of Steel 2 script, they weren't happy with that. That fell apart. Wonder Woman 3 is not happening now. That it might be likely that they would hard reboot. But James Gunn said that he is looking to continue with what has worked and rectify what is not, which makes me think, okay, maybe he's still in soft reboot mode. But let me say this. They've been kind of soft rebooting their DC universe over and over and over again for the last 10 years, picking and choosing what to keep, what to get rid of. And that's been their problem, is that they have this incohesive universe because they want to let go of things that didn't work. They want to hold on to certain things, like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman was generally well received. But even then, they kind of, they even taint the things that have worked. Like Wonder Woman 1984 really destroyed the reputation of that actress and creative team. And so I'm like, you got to just let go. You got to be willing to let go of stuff, even if it worked, in order to actually have something good in the future. Because right now, this is like a corpse of a universe limping along that doesn't have any cohesion. They've lost. They're the bottom. Their bottom for how low their box office is. It keeps getting lower and lower because people are confused by the universe. So I would say I was one of the few people who was critical of James Gunn coming on in the beginning. But if he hard reboots this universe, I will take back everything that I've said, because I've been saying that that's what they should do for the past 9 years or so. And he has to be the one with the guts to actually do it. Otherwise, they're going to have the same thing that they've always had, this universe that's not cohesive, that's limping along because they're attached to certain actors. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. I at this point, I think you just need to do a hard reset. Like, just start fresh, reboot it, go from there. Because this whole like soft reboot just is not working. They keep trying to soft reboot. It doesn't stick. And I think that if you bring anyone forward, they're just going to, I think your general audience, your common audience is just going to review this as more of the same. And I think that's what DC and Warner Brothers desperately needs to get away from, is more of the same. And I get that James Gunn specifically has some of his darlings that he's trying to hold on to. Peacemaker is probably definitely one of them. And they've had some success on HBO Max with Peacemaker. You're getting a season 2. I'd say wrap it up. You for sure have at least 3 films most likely coming out: Flash, Aquaman, and Blue Beetle. I wouldn't be surprised if those actually end up getting squandered to HBO Max just to put less of a spotlight on them if they do decide to reboot. So we'll see. But at this point, like, just start over. Like,
yeah,
you just gotta start over.
I'd like to point something out, because I was seeing some people online criticize and get really upset. Like, I thought Henry Cavill was coming back. I was so hyped about it, and now they're ruining it. Well, first of all, Henry Cavill was premature. That was Dwayne Johnson really pushing him, and then Henry Cavill pushing himself. He did not have an official contract. They were not officially doing anything. So
I said this months ago, by the way, when the marketing was coming out and everyone was like, "Oh, he's back, he's back, he's back." On this show, I said, "Not yet. So if you want him back, you better go see this movie." And guess what? People didn't go see Black Adam.
Well, I would like to point out, though, that this is the problem, though, of it's sort of a try to please everyone mentality, because I see people complaining that they really, really want Henry Cavill back as Superman. But I'm like, but then there's a lot of people, and I know a lot of DC fans who were turned away from the universe as far back as Suicide Squad 2016 and Batman v Superman. And then you've got the mainstream audiences who don't care really who plays Superman. But then again, if they see a new Superman movie with a new direction, new tone and everything, but it's Henry Cavill, then you're going to have some people at the same time going, wait, what is this? Because this is the same actor, but it looks different. And casual audiences are not even going to bother to look it up themselves to try to figure it out. They're not like us who sit on the internet constantly and on our YouTube channels, cataloging news or stuff. You need to get something that's easy to follow. And that is like, press the red button of hard reset. If you like everything except the Batman universe, because that was financially and critically well received by anyone. It would be a really bad idea to cancel the Batman reboot and then do another Batman reboot, but keep the Batman and build something like just have a Superman movie, maybe have little nods that it could be related to the Batman universe, maybe somehow. And then if it works out, eventually bring them together like they did with the DCAU. But I tell people that they hold on to these certain castings like Henry as Superman or Gal as Wonder Woman. First of all, Gal Gadot cannot act. I'm sorry, she cannot act. There are many other people out there who could play Wonder Woman. But I'm saying that if you keep holding on to even just one thing, like one actor or one movie that you want to be canon, except for the Batman, which is a fresh start, then you're continuing to do the same thing that DC has always done and running it into the ground. I think that James Gunn's problem is that he's worked with some of these actors. He's worked with Viola Davis's Amanda Waller, who he wanted to do something with on HBO Max before he got the job as CEO. And he loves Margot Robbie, not just as a performer, but as a person. He's friends with her in real life. And so I think that I think that it would be wise just to wrap up his Peacemaker season 2 and then just completely hard reset. That would be a really hard decision to make. That would be great for the DC brand in the long run, but I'm not sure if he's going to do it because he's still got things that he's holding on to. However, he is working with other executives. That's something that people and even myself need to remember is Peter Safran is his co-CEO. The Wonder Woman 3 was initially turned down by a different executive, and they all have to report to David Zaslav. So it's not him just calling the shots. So I think if they collectively decide it would be best for the brand to hard reboot and just finally do the hard decision that we've been putting off all these years, then it would be more profitable in the long run.
Well, it's not like they're leaving a lot of money on the table anyway.
No.
Is Aquaman going to do $1 billion like the first one did? I don't think it will.
I think it was a fluke for that one getting $1 billion.
I just want Gal Gadot to come back to the Fast and Furious franchise.
Well, who doesn't?
They already brought Han back.
Well, but to be fair,
How can you bring Han
Gal
back?
Gadot's lack of acting ability is not the big problem that it is for some other people.
Yeah.
I'm okay with her lack of acting ability.
Yes.
And Aquaman probably had the same halo effect that Brie Larson's Captain Marvel had. There was a halo effect about coming out of BVS and Suicide Squad and all these other things that are happening at the same time, and it just happened to pick up some of that wake. For the DCU to move forward, you have to distinguish and separate yourself from the Snyderverse. You can't hold on to pieces of it. You can't have a foot in the door. You can't just keep what worked and get rid of what hard, clean break. You have to stop the Snyderverse wherever it is, put it in the ground, put a nice little flower on it, and say thank you for your service. We're moving on to a different thing. There has to be that level of separation. If Gunn goes back and says, well, we're going to keep this and we're going to keep that and we're going to try and merge them together, there's always going to be brand confusion. You're always going to have people that are constantly harping and haranguing about bring back the Snyderverse and bring back Zack Snyder. It's always going to be a constant fight. You have to make a clean break. It has to be a definitive break. It has to be a very public break. And then you move forward with a new universe with a new plan. That's the only way it's going to work to its fullest potential. If he keeps trying to keep his feet in both worlds, it's always going to be less than it can be.
In fairness, it did work for the X-Men with after Last Stand being a critical and audience flop, even though it was fairly financially successful. It did work whenever they decided to bring everybody back for Days of Future Past and connect the First Class universe to the original trilogy. So it can work. I think they're going to tempt fate by trying to make it work with the DCEU. Whether it's successful or not is, I have serious doubts, because there wasn't really any parts of the DCEU that everybody universally loved the way they did, say, X-Men 1 and X-Men 2, even though, so you at least had a majority of the original trilogy franchise, like films that people really, really loved to connect back to. You probably have maybe 2 films in the DCEU that everybody mostly loves, and even then they're not universally loved. I mean, they were more financially successful, but that's 15 years of inflation having something to do with it.
Well, I wouldn't compare DC with X-Men, because X-Men had a good start, and then it really failed with Last Stand, and then they got back on their feet, and then they decided to connect it a bit. But DC is just kind of it's like if you see a car crash and then the car, you think, oh, maybe I can salvage the car, and the car keeps rolling down the hill and hitting rocks and stuff, and chunks of it get bitten out. You're like, well, maybe I can salvage that car still, when you really should just buy a new car. That's kind of how I feel with DC. It's that's what they've been doing for all these years. Is if it was after Suicide Squad 2016 was kind of the 3 strikes you're out point, then I'd be like, okay, maybe there's still a chance to salvage this. I was a little bit on board with it with Wonder Woman 2017, and but now it's just years of that, and they've taken even things like Wonder Woman 2017 had Wonder Woman 1984, where you had something that everyone seemed to like, and then you ruined it. And then for Suicide Squad 2016, pretty much, or at least the most vocal people liked Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, and even I did at that point. And then they gave the actress way too much power, and she did Birds of Prey. And then that tainted people's perception of that. And so it's you've got every kind of thing, even the things that people have enjoyed in this universe. It's they go forward and they find a way to wreck even that. So that's especially why I'm you just need a hard reboot. There's no point in even holding on to these things that have kind of worked, because it seems that this universe and the decision-making behind it even destroys those things.
Well, the Margot Robbie problem is the same thing that was the Patty Jenkins problem. Wonder Woman 1, Patty Jenkins mostly just filmed it, had a small amount of input on plot, and it was all mostly, I think, Alan Heinberg. But because it was successful, they gave her all the power for Wonder Woman 2, and it basically tanked. I mean, granted, I everything when it comes to this, Wonder Woman 3 getting, maybe canceled, is just kind of ironic and history repeating itself, because she basically did the exact same thing with throwing a temper tantrum and quitting, never quite getting hired on Thor 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, the lady that throws temper tantrums when she doesn't get her way threw a temper tantrum when she didn't get her way.
Shocking.
I know.
I just want to comment. Some of you in the chat are talking about how the actors are going on social media, and it sounds like they're still part of these projects. They are campaigning to keep their jobs.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are trying everything they can right now to get as much public support behind them, so people will rally, so that Warner Brothers and DC will say, oh, okay, we probably need to keep this person. I do think Zaslav has shown he's not afraid to just cut things, and I think we're going to see that he's just going to move on.
Yeah, it's going to be funny, because if like David Zaslav, they've said this, is ultimately the one who makes the final decision. Like James Gunn and Peter Safran are supposedly going to present him a plan, but he gets final say on it. So if he says, okay, I've made up my mind, we need to just hard reboot everything, then whether James Gunn has personal feelings on some of this stuff or not, they're going to have to do that. But I'm just thinking, what's his perspective as a director who's getting certain projects versus what he could do as a CEO? Because as a director, he's probably like, oh, I want to do Peacemaker. I want that to be going. I want to maybe do a Batman show that he was teasing. But now he's CEO. He has the keys to everything, and that could be very different for his career based on the decisions he makes now. So he might be willing to let go of Peacemaker, just finish it up with season 2. And his Amanda Waller plans that people are talking about, that was before he became CEO. So I don't even know if he's still intending to do that. So we'll see if that's what he decides. He said that not everyone's going to be happy with everything, which is true because they have a fractured fan base. What's the way to rectify a fractured fan base? Well, cut it off for now and hope that you can make a unified one in the future.
Yeah, and look,
let's hear for the peoples. We've got a lot of super chats we need to get through before we wrap this up. We've only got about 30 minutes left. Jason Brown says Patty Jenkins is a legend. Wonder Woman 1984 is a masterclass in the art of subversion, perhaps the last carte blanche film for a large IP. With that, what would you do for Wonder Woman 3? Get a new creative team or reboot?
Reboot.
I would
do something with Justice League Dark kind of aspects to it. I bring Etrick and the Demon, and I do some of that kind of stuff.
I'd bring in Catherine Bigelow to direct it. I love her movie. She did Point Break. She did Near Dark, Zero Dark 30. She's a great director. And if it's important to have female creators helming a Wonder Woman movie, I think Catherine Bigelow is a great fit.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that in the past. Is Wonder Woman doesn't make sense in a world where there's a Superman. So if you're talking about, she is best positioned to fill the gap where he is weakest, and magic is his vulnerability. So if you recast Wonder Woman in a, maybe not doing a full-blown Justice League Dark, but something that is very much based in that world of magic where Superman can't tread, you need somebody who can think in along those lines. I would be very interested. I mean, along those lines, hey, Guillermo del Toro. Let's see him do Wonder Woman, and let's see where he can bring that kind of that sensibility of magic, but with a dark edge to it. I think he would do a great job along those lines.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job on Blade 2. Bandito Bade says, as a Mexican, I found Namor's new origin offensive because it's just colonist theory BS. They're saying I need to be ashamed for being related to my ancestors, and all because they didn't want to pay Kirby. Josh, you are the big defender of this film, and you love Namor's portrayal in this movie.
Yeah, look, I've seen Spanish people take both sides on this. I don't think I've ever heard anyone else say the movie saying they need to be ashamed for being related to their ancestors. I would say it's saying the opposite. I mean, the whole point of his character is he's embracing who he is and his past and where his mother is from in the film. So I don't fully understand how you got that, but if that's how you felt, then that's how you felt.
There you go. What did you think, Gabe? Do you like the new origin for Namor?
I'm kind of ambivalent about it. I mean, it's definitely not the comics Namor. It's almost a completely different character. In every way, in every external way. And especially Namor in the comics is not known for digging into his family and just those smaller personal aspects. So the movie just takes a completely different approach. So, I mean, do I like one better than the other? I'm not even sure I could even make that assessment simply because they're just not even the same character. I mean, some similarities in appearance and a little bit with the name, but it's almost like it doesn't even, they're not even from the same, they're just not the same in almost every way.
That's because everybody in his family has been dead for like 2,000 years.
I mean, that you pretty much have that in the movie too. The biggest resemblance is from character wise is just his motivation. His motivation is pretty much reminds me of Namor's motivations in comics.
Goblin Set says 2022 was a bad year for Wonder Woman. Trial of the Amazons was terrible. Fitzmartin has disgraced Cassie Sandsmark along with Arrowette, and now the third movie is gone. Very disappointing. Not a banner year if you're a Wonder Woman fan, Sully.
I'm not buying it.
You're not buying Wonder Woman?
Literally, it ain't getting my money. And
you need to go read Trial of the Amazons.
No,
if you really want to appreciate today's comic books.
I am blissfully unaware of the writing styles of these Fitzmartins, of these Phillips, of these Williamses, and these Vitas, and it's all Greek to me, man.
I need somebody in chat to create a meme gif of Eric just leaning in with that big smile, just saying, "I'm not buying it," and just leaning it back. I could probably find
in fairness, what year other than the year that the Wonder Woman movie came out in the last 3 decades has Wonder Woman had a banner year?
There you go. Cal Lyle says, "I don't want the first Wonder Woman to be retconned."
Let me say, I don't want the first Wonder Woman to be retconned, but I want Wonder Woman 1984 to be retconned. And that's why this is unsalvageable, because you can't go forward. Okay, Wonder Woman 1984 didn't happen, but Wonder Woman 2017 did. And the Suicide Squad 2021 happened, but Suicide Squad 2016 did not, even though they reference the 2021 reference 2016. You see, it's a mess. And so you have to make a sacrifice. Even if we like one movie or one casting, you have to make a sacrifice. Also, it's odd that people act like Gal Gadot or Henry Cavill. It's weird that they act like these are the only people who could ever play these characters, and I just don't see that. Partially because these are people who've had actors play them many times in the past, but it's like these actors aren't even going to live forever. We're eventually going to have to get new people to play them anyway.
Or they could just do a Crisis on like 8 Earths, because that's about where they're at.
Calvin says, all hope left for Wonder Woman is her video game. What do you want in a Wonder Woman video game? I would like her witch from the Justice League Dark and no other villains.
I would just like good gameplay.
Sounds like the Wonder Woman, like all the video games are going to tie into the movies and streaming. So if your hope is in a Wonder Woman video game, unless it's like almost finished, it's probably going to be changed.
But that Wonder Woman video game was like, when was it announced? It was announced before James Gunn came on. But he's very coy about the whole thing. Sorry, what?
Well, I mean, I know the one of the game developer leads. I think she's the main design lead for the new Wonder Woman game, because I knew her when she was working on DCUO, which is DC's multiplayer online game, and she's good friends with Susan Eisenberg, and she's super, super deep into Wonder Woman lore. So at the very least, I can say the new Wonder Woman game is bringing on game designer people who are really into Wonder Woman and know the character in depth. So at least they're bringing on the right people for that project. Now, whether or not they can pull off the game and what it's like, and the plot and everything else surrounding it, who knows? But I can at least see that I know at least one person who's been brought on for that game that is really a DCU and Wonder Woman fan in particular.
Very nice. A little inside information. We've got R33S3M from my Don't Give Marvel DC Money account. You guys are way more entertaining. Well, thank you very much. This is what we try to do. That's why we try to balance things out, have a little bit of fun here, talking about some gavel plugs. If you're looking for entertainment from Marvel and DC, it's kind of hard to come by these days. So we do our best. I'm glad you're enjoying it, and welcome to the channel. Thank you for supporting. Dylan Lindsay says, hard reboot. Just keep Henry as Superman.
Then it's not a hard reboot. Then that's a soft reboot. If you're keeping any of the actors.
Move Henry Cavill over to be James Bond, and then we can have an American James Bond.
He was James Bond.
Well, hell, I don't know if the studio is going to want it.
That's Man from Uncle. Man from Uncle, and that's an underrated movie. That's a good movie.
Henry Cavill's British, though. Why would he be an American James Bond?
Oh yeah, he is British. Is he?
Yeah, he is
British.
Very British.
Oh Jesus Christ!
I mean, look, the thing with Henry Cavill right now is he's politically within the industry.
Hard.
He's got a tough job ahead of him because he walked on Witcher, which I know people were excited about, but the studios like Netflix is not happy. He was approached by Marvel and apparently turned down whatever they were trying to pull him for because he wanted to go all in on Superman. And guess what? It looks like he's not moving forward with Superman.
Very interesting stuff. Kenneth Dowling says, way back, I remember the first Wonder Woman. There were some bad things behind the scenes. It had to be taken away from Patty Jenkins, and it was good. She had more power in Wonder Woman 1984, and it was not good.
Yeah,
kind of amazed she even gets work, because everything I hear is that she's really difficult to work with and doesn't listen to people.
She's there because a lot
made a lot of money,
and because no, it's not even that. The reason why she still gets work is because a lot of female actresses push for her to direct their stuff and to give her work. She's friendly with a lot of the actresses, and they essentially evangelize for her. So that's it.
Yeah. Being difficult to work with doesn't have to be a death sentence as long as you bring the quality. And after Wonder Woman 1984, I think that's the big problem, right? Did not deliver.
It's the Teenie Howard effect.
Teenie Howard has never written a good comic book in her life. There's a big issue.
But she keeps getting work because people like her.
But Patty Jenkins has made a good Wonder Woman movie. At least 80% of a good Wonder Woman movie. Yeah,
Did she?
No, she made about 20% of a good Wonder Woman movie. The rest of it was everyone else. All she did on that first movie, she did a couple of minor plot points and directed it. She had almost no writing influence on that film at all. It wasn't until the second one that she got all the creative control, and that's when it went to shit.
All right, Doc. Cobbett says, what does this mean for Shazam? Levi wrote a Shazam comic.
I think that I'm going to go see Shazam Fury of the Gods, but I don't think that it's going to do that well at the box office, just like the first one didn't. So I think that they're going to write that off and be like, we don't need to hold on to this IP any longer if we want to move forward. I think that
they'll keep the IP, but they probably won't.
I meant this version of it, but I think that
that first movie was so good though. It's the best DCEU movie they ever made.
Yeah, but Shazam is also not DC. It's New Line Cinema. It's a different studio house, so they might be able to work something out to keep it.
But yeah, I love that movie. That one's fantastic. Kenneth says Teresa made a good point on the DCU. I think a hard reboot is the way to go. Even the Batman sequel hasn't been greenlit yet. Reboot all of it.
Well, the only reason I say that the Batman should not be rebooted is that they just got this.
It's a separate universe.
It's like, I mean, Henry Cavill was cast as Superman like 10 years ago. And meanwhile, the Batman just happened. Critics liked it. Mainstream audiences, for the most part, liked it. It was a little bit too long. So it's pretty much an agreeable movie. You could even like continue on your universe there.
There's issues with that film, though.
Yeah, there are issues, but
it's the second movie of a trilogy, not the first movie.
Hey, can I ask, who are they going to steal the plot from and the story from next time? They already stole the first one.
For the Batman?
Yeah, it's still a lawsuit because there was a writer
said he wrote the script and
he did write it. He submitted it to DC 30 years ago and they rejected it as a comic script. And then they just literally used the exact same thing for this movie.
Allegedly.
Hey, he wrote the same fucking movie, the same script. Whether or not
have you read the script, Doc?
No, I don't really give a shit.
Well, that's what it says.
I'm just asking who they're going to steal it from next time. I guess they'll go dig into the other archives of rejected comics.
Sure, they have a lot of scripts out there. But the Batman is in its own universe. It's not supposed to be connected to anything else DC related.
Yeah, but James Gunn's wanting to have a single universe. So I think that's where the questions come in.
Dylan Lindsay says, is it realistic to keep $1 billion as the benchmark for the success of a movie? Justice League made almost $700 million, but is a failure. I don't think it's realistic to expect movies to make that much money every time. $700 million is a lot. It depends on the budget of the movie and whether or not $1 billion is what it needs to be successful. It sounds like Avatar is going to have to make like $2 billion just to turn a profit for the first film.
Well, actually, I think they went back on it and said it's more like 800 million. Like they went a little too far with that. But I think part of it is they've been spending a whole lot of money on these movies, but also it's a factor of they've seen how much the top movies get. Like Top Gun Maverick billion, Aladdin billion, the Avengers movies billion. So that's, as inflation goes, that's like become the new, like I remember when 700 million was, or 800 million was like, oh, that's the high point of a ridiculously successful movie, but then it moved on to $1 billion. So I think that as inflation goes on, they change their standards of what can be considered.
If they made a Superman movie for $50 million, it wouldn't need to make $1 billion to be really successful. It would need to make like $400 million and it would be very successful. The budgets are enormous.
Yeah, the basic economics is about 2.5 times whatever the budget is what the revenue has to be in order for them to break even. Anything
that's just
over
on the theatrical run. They do make money afterwards on like video on demand, Blu-ray sales, stuff like that.
Well, I'll give an example of what I was talking about. So Avengers Age of Ultron did turn a profit, but it made like $1.2 billion, but Disney was still disappointed with it because it didn't make as much as they wanted it to make.
Yes.
And so that's part of it. It's like some of it is the budget, of course. When they lose money, they're not happy with that. But also it's how much money did I think that I was supposed to make with this? Same with the Batman. The only thing
Last Jedi. When that movie came out, they were expecting it to be like Endgame types of money. and it did not do anything close to that.
Like that was the only thing the Batman has going against it, is because they wanted that to be $1 billion movie that was
like
not realistic, and they did turn a profit as far as I know for that movie, but it wasn't as much as they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all depends on the budget. That's why you don't see any like mid-budget movies in theaters. They're all on Netflix and streaming nowadays.
Yep.
Kenneth wants to know, Wes, I remember you and Josh liking non-powered heroes over powered heroes. That is correct. I would think you would have enjoyed Batman 130. No.
No.
That wasn't very, like, maybe you don't understand what I like about non-powered heroes is that they don't have to rely on their powers. They have to overcome obstacles. Traversing from the moon to the earth and re-entering the atmosphere and landing at the Fortress of Solitude with just a booster engine and a plastic mask on your face goes so far beyond, like, how could he do it without superpowers? Like, you know what I'm saying, Josh?
It was fun. Yeah.
Jesus.
Sorry.
You look like a pimp today, you know that?
I am so pimping.
Pimping ain't easy.
If I could deviate just for a second, somebody in the chat is asking about Batman versus Spawn, which is coming out next week. I have read it. Review will be coming out next week. The story's kind of convoluted and weird, but the art is fantastic, which is what you're going to expect from a Todd McFarlane Batman Spawn team up book. So if that's what if you're looking for if you don't care too much about the story, you just want the great art, you're going to love it. If you want to try to clearly understand the story, you may struggle. It's
also a sequel from the crossover they did like 20, 30 years ago.
Sort of, but not really, because they act like they've never really interacted with each other before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, maybe they didn't put that into the press release. Common Sense wants to know, is Wonder Woman 3 script being leaked? I saw a tweet where Trevor was revived again by the Lazarus pit. Like why?
Oh, that's a joke. That's a joke.
All right.
So there was a meme. So there was a meme going around like Wonder Woman 3. Steve Trevor is revived from the Lazarus pit, and then like someone made a crazy fan fiction about what Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 was. That's what that was.
Did she pull his like goopy remains from the exploded plane and just throw them in, and then he comes back as the Blob?
Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman is just resurrections of Steve Trevor, even though they killed him in the first place.
Yeah.
Dill Lindsay says, I understand that budget factors into if a movie is a success, but so does merchandising and the home market after its theater run. Yeah, absolutely. The reason that George Lucas is a billionaire multiple times over is not because the Star Wars movies were really successful. It's because the toys were.
But if they don't make a profit on the movies, there's very good likelihood they're not going to make a significant.
You can't sell merchandise for movies that aren't good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
those
are
an
think about
the cause.
To your point with Wonder Woman 84, I mean, you had Diana in the Golden Eagle armor. Okay, that's something for collectors. But what are you going to do? Have an action figure for Maxwell Lord? Nobody cares about that. Cheetah was barely in the movie, and there are better action figures of Cheetah than the version that you got in the movie. So yeah, just even on the merchandising count for Wonder Woman 84, that movie was a bomb.
Yeah, you might get them breaking even eventually from like merchandise and Blu-ray sales and stuff like that. But if they're still seeing like a low rate of success, like maybe it bombed in the theater and then they just didn't make as much from merchandise, even though they made their money back, then they're thinking, well, we're not going to continue with it like this.
Yeah, plus that stuff's all like they're their own departments, they have their own budgets and expectations and stuff like that.
Yeah, and just from a studio perspective, they're still factoring that in. Like when they're planning these films, they're making projections just across the board. So if a movie underperforms in theaters, that's already setting them back from what they were projecting to make. So it's just that's the upfront money. That's why it gets talked about so much. But that's why, like, if a movie underperforms, they're already working at a downscale, and it most likely projects that, as Doc said, these other sales are going to be softer.
Yeah, the all those things are gravy money. They are not considered part of it. I mean, that's the same logic of the Iceman comic made money after it ended up in trade paperback.
Terrific. Kenneth Dowling says Teresa's expectations about Gal Gadot or explanation about Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill is the exact reason why T'Challa should have been recast.
I agree with that.
Absolutely.
DiCaprio, come on. I will never
It
give
would have
this
made a
up.
solid
Yeah.
T'Challa.
I mean, exactly to that point, Wakanda Forever, they made it more about Chadwick Boseman than they did about the character of T'Challa. And I think that's, and this is not disrespect toward Chadwick Boseman, you know, great guy by all accounts, and he'll be sorely missed. But when you make the story about the actor rather than the character that story is meant to talk about, then you disconnect from what matters in telling of that story. And so, yeah, I agree. They should have recast him. And that's not to disrespect his memory in any way, but you're trying to tell a story. And if you take away from that to respect the actor playing that story, then you've cut your nose off to spite your face.
Seamus McCallahan must be Italian. Semi-hard reboot, right, Doc? Huh?
Flaccid
You're into the
reboot.
semi-hard reboot, right, Doc?
No, not just semi. You need either like throbbing hard reboot or completely flaccid reboot.
Jesus, Doc. You got one with the wordplay. Kenneth Dowling says, I'm out, guys. Always enjoy you guys on the channel. Doc didn't know Henry Cavill was British.
I've literally
What a
never heard the motherfucker talk except for in film, and he always plays an American.
I'm pretty sure he played like
He
a
was
British
in Enola
person in
Holmes.
Mission Impossible, didn't he?
No, he
Wasn't
didn't.
he
He was-
British
he
in The
was-
Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
No, he was American in The Man
No,
from
he was-
Uncle. If you want to see an early Cavill performance, look at the Count of Monte Cristo.
That's true. Now you mentioned, I forgot he was in that movie.
With Guy Pearce.
I love the Count of Monte Cristo. That's like one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah, Mission
I-
Impossible. No,
I really like Batman 130, but it's not good. Hope that gets my cred back. Have a great weekend, guys. You never lost any credibility.
It's on the list.
Gabe is just, he's a grumpy guy. I don't know why
Checking
he
his
was.
list. He's
My list,
like
my list
that.
is subject to change. My list is subject to change.
You still have credibility. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Fedor Saku, what new DC EU IP could be huge? Bat Family, in my opinion.
Okay, you want an IP that you could start off without all the baggage, and you can, if you get the right directors and the right storytellers, you can make it
Green Lantern.
huge. No, Legion. Legion is superheroes. Because
very
it's
cool stuff.
completely disconnected from everything else. It's in the future. It doesn't have to relate to anything. You don't have to worry about the baggage of the Snyderverse or the characters or anything else. It can be a self-contained story, but if you do it right with the right tone and the right actors and the right story and the right director and all the pieces you need for you, then you can build on that, and then you can just go off in its own direction. You don't have to worry about any of the prior Snyderverse baggage, and it could be huge if you do it right.
Use of Superheroes is pretty dope. I still say Green Lantern, but obviously that's going to be really expensive. Doing
Whatever they do,
stuff.
he's got 4 years. Like his contract's 4 years, so he's got to hit it like
I don't
early
think
and
so.
fast.
I mean, he does have 4 years, but I think if I had to guess, part of the reason for the delay for the Flash movie, now pushed to I think it's June or July of next year, is because they're giving Gunn time to retool whatever his strategy, that map is going to be, and they're going to adjust the filming of that movie to dovetail into that map. So
Yeah,
I think I still say Flash is going to be that flashpoint that's really going to set the direction for the DC going forward.
My point is, like, the earliest, like the absolute earliest you could probably see a film is a year from now, and that's if it's a street level hero. If you go with anything that's going to take CGI, you're looking at 1.5 to 2 years before you see what Gunn's actual vision is, and by that point, half of his contract is already done. So he's got to hit it fast and early, and he's got to hit it well. If he doesn't, if his whatever his vision is, whatever his plan is, if his first 2 films don't land, it's done. He's done.
All right, so I do want to say thank you very much to everyone on the panel. I think we had a good time today, good discussions all around. Let's talk about some good stuff and recommend some comic books while we're heading out the door. Teresa, what should people be reading this week?
Right now, I would just say, once again, can't get over that title. They titled it really badly. Batman, Joker, Deadly Duo. It's probably the only Batman comic right now that is really a classic that you'll really enjoy. You've just got to listen to me. Find the good books. Don't be just reading the mainstream Batman. If they're hard to find, the good books right now. Don't be reading Poison Ivy because G. Wilson dropped the ball on that comic.
Batman Superman World's Finest is also a very, very good comic book, in my opinion. So what else we got? We got Sully, the Sultan of Soup himself. What are you recommending this week? Batman 130?
Waka Waka. I went to here's my bag, my brown paper bag of new comic books from my local comic book store. And all I got this week was I got a little manga. I got the latest issue of Dragon Ball Super, which is very entertaining. So I got a little manga, and I'm a big fan of that. I got the variant cover for Batman 130 because I'm a grown up and I can afford it, and it caught my eye, and I really dug this issue. I know I'm the sole voice that's but it was fun. It was over the top. I love the backup story too. And one excuse to go to your local comic book store is they have shelves full of used trade paperbacks. I got 5 for $20. I picked up the Ultimates, Mark Millar's. I picked up this Flash, Blood Will Run. It's also got EVS art in here. It's got some Iron Heights in here. That's great. And I picked up Hitman. I love Hitman. This is fun comic books. So go to your local comic book store and spend your money, please. God bless. Thanks for having me on the channel again, Wes. I love it.
Gabe, you were extra salty this week. Can you recommend, in good conscience, any new comic books?
I'll recommend a few. First, shameless plug. If you're interested in our DC reviews, Weird Science DC Comics, if you're interested in the Marvel reviews, Weird Science Marvel Comics. For everything else, Dynamite, Zenescope, Scout, everybody else in between, I'm the publisher and EIC of Comical Opinions, so please follow along on all the socials. I've 4 books to recommend this week. First is I'm going to go with Teresa on this one, Batman and Joker, Deadly Duo #2. Much better than the first issue, and it leans into the horror a lot. So I like that because I'm a horror guy, so I like that aspect. Dynamite recently rebooted. And this week was the first issue of Gargoyles #1, Disney Gargoyles #1, from the same original creator, Greg Weisman. It was good. It's a great jumping on point if you're not familiar with the characters, but it sort of picks up from the end of the cartoon from series season 2. So it's not a fresh reboot you're sort of picking out, but for new readers, it's a good jumping on point. I'm going to give a soft recommend to Miles Morales, Spider-Man #1 from Cody Ziegler. I was shocked that it was okay, but it's just that it's okay. So if you're looking for a Marvel comic, that's probably about as good as you're going to get. And for me, the big hit that I liked a lot was Vampirella versus Red Sonja #2. It's a sort of multiverse spanning comic where they're coming together with characters from the Project, which is Alex Ross's public domain superhero team-up book, and basically that's turning out to be a better Justice League book than the Justice League. I know it sounds weird for that matchup, but that's exactly what it is. So if you want like a Justice League style big event type comic, that's the one to pick. Vampirella versus Red Sonja #2. That's actually my top pick of the week.
Very nice. Dill Lindsay says, should they bring Brandon Routh back as Superman? No. I know people didn't like the movie, but I thought his performance was solid. What performance? Yeah. He didn't even hardly speak in the movie. He just stood there and looked like Christopher Reeve.
And was a weird stalker.
He was kind of a weird stalker.
Yeah.
I like Brandon Routh. He's certainly way too old at this point. I think he did a good job as the Atom in the Arrowverse and stuff like this, but he never did anything as Superman in that movie. He just kind of stood there, didn't he?
Yeah, he caught a plane on a baseball field.
But I liked him as the Kingdom Come Superman in the CW.
If you're going to do Kingdom Come, which it sounds like that is a rumor that it could happen, I say do that. Maybe it could work. He's a good enough actor. He got dealt a bad hit. They didn't want him to speak. They just wanted to look like Christopher Reeves.
Honestly, I wasn't even thinking he was that good of a Atom either, because he was basically Iron Man, not the Atom.
Yeah,
he was shrinking Iron Man.
Very good. So that's what I say on that one, Dylan. We got some more recommendations coming from Josh. What are you recommending this week?
I'm going to back Gabe up on Gargoyles. I thought it was a lot of fun. I don't know if it's just this nostalgia for me, but I'm one of those people that's been saying, why isn't there Gargoyles content since about like 2018? And then you started seeing action figures and stuff pop up, and I was like, ooh. And then the book came back out. So for me, it was fun. Other than that, I would say that Texas Blood, I'm continuing to read it, and I think it's really good. So,
very nice. Doc, you have any recommendations this week?
Actually, you know what? I'm going to recommend, since I'm not buying new comics, but Mark Silvestri has a current book out, I'm just going to recommend you going and buying the Complete Cyberforce Volume 1 omnibus hardcover. It was really good. It was fun. It's reprintings of the original Cyberforce run, and I'm going to recommend that. And as a double dose of Mark Silvestri this week, since Dark Web came out, and it's just a terrible, terrible, terrible sequel to the original Inferno, I'm going to go recommend that you buy the Inferno Omnibus, or you could just buy Uncanny X-Men from about 228 to 243. You could probably find them reasonably priced. And there's a couple of issues of X Factor that cross over with that. But yeah, go check that out. Go read the real Inferno instead of this weird, stupid version, and go read some more Mark Silvestri. So
very nice. Doc and I will be reviewing Dark Web #1 on Monday. It's not the worst thing in the world, but we were not impressed. You definitely want to check that one out. My video up for the best new comic books of the week will be up tonight with Drew from Comics Elite. I want to say thank you very much to everyone on the panel. Thank you to all the viewers for joining us, and thank you very much. A special thank you to everyone for supporting the channel. Really appreciate that one. We'll see you next week right here live on Thinking Critical for the Comics Aficionados.